Welcome to the Channel Science documentary for sleep. You don't need to do anything special to be here. You can listen closely, or you can let the words pass by, or you can rest somewhere in between. As your body settles in whatever way feels natural, you may notice your breathing slowing on its own, your shoulders easing, your attention softening. Tonight, we're exploring some of the most relaxing facts about our solar system, real things, quietly happening, whether we notice them or not. There's nothing to remember and nowhere to get to, just this moment and this gentle stream of science keeping you company. The solar system is a wide, calm place when you step back from the diagrams and the numbers. It's made of planets moving patiently in long, repeating paths, of rings circling without hurry, of moons tracing familiar shadows again and again. There are vast distances where almost nothing happens, and long stretches of time where change is nearly imperceptible. Astronomers observe storms that last for centuries, ice that hasn't shifted for millions of years, and orbits so steady they can be predicted far into the future. All of these facts are real, carefully measured, quietly known. You might feel curious as you hear them, or soothed, or only vaguely aware before your thoughts drift somewhere else. Any of those responses are completely fine. If you find yourself fading in and out, you're still exactly where you need to be. If you'd like, you can simply let the solar system unfold in the background, like a slow-moving sky, while you rest. Far from Earth, beyond the orbit of Mars, there is a wide region where the solar system begins to feel quieter and more spacious. This is where the gas giants move Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune, each following a path set long ago. Their orbits are not rushed. They take many years to complete a single journey around the Sun, gliding through space at speeds that are fast in human terms, but gentle on a cosmic scale. Jupiter, the largest planet, takes nearly 12 Earth years to complete one orbit. Saturn takes almost 30, Uranus takes 84, and Neptune, far and blue and distant, takes about 165 Earth years to go around once. While life on Earth changes rapidly, these planets continue along their paths, steady and predictable, as they have for billions of years. You don't need to picture them clearly. It's enough to know that they are moving, patiently, without interruption. Astronomers calculate these motions with great precision, but the planets themselves don't seem concerned. They respond only to gravity, the quiet pull of the sun, and the subtle influences of one another. This balance has held for a very long time. If your thoughts wander here, that's okay. The planets will keep moving whether you're listening or not. Saturn's rings are often described as one of the most beautiful structures in the solar system, but they are also one of the calmest. They're made of countless pieces of ice and rock, ranging in size from tiny grains to large chunks, all orbiting Saturn together. Each piece follows the same basic rule: move forward, stay in place, circle again. The rings look solid from a distance, but they are more like a slow, orderly crowd. There is space between each particle. They rarely collide. When they do, the interactions are gentle, absorbing energy rather than creating chaos. The rings have been circling Saturn for millions of years, perhaps longer, maintaining their shape through quiet repetition. Sometimes, moons pass nearby and create faint ripples in the rings, delicate waves that move outward and fade. These waves don't break anything, they don't disrupt the system, they simply pass through like a soft disturbance on water. If you imagine those ripples, you don't need to hold the image. It can blur, or dissolve, or be replaced by something else entirely. On Jupiter, there is a storm that has been observed for over 300 years. It's called the Great Red Spot, though its colour shifts gently over time, sometimes deeper, sometimes paler. This storm is larger than Earth, yet it doesn't roar in the way storms here do. It turns slowly, driven by Jupiter's internal heat and powerful atmosphere. What's calming about this storm is not its size, but its persistence. It doesn't hurry toward an ending. It doesn't intensify toward a climax. It simply exists, gradually changing, sometimes shrinking, sometimes stretching, but never vanishing all at once. Astronomers watch it patiently, knowing it may last many more years or slowly fade without announcement. You don't need to track its details. You don't need to remember its name. The idea that something so large can move so slowly is enough, and even that can fade if you're already drifting. Many of the planets have moons that keep time in quiet ways. Our moon, for example, always shows the same face to Earth. This is called tidal locking, and it happened gradually, over immense spans of time. The moon didn't decide to do this. It simply responded to gravity, settling into a stable rhythm that has lasted for billions of years. Other moons do the same. They rotate once for every orbit, maintaining the same orientation again and again. It's not dramatic. It's not intentional. It's a natural outcome of motion slowing into balance. This kind of synchronization happens throughout the solar system, quietly, without effort. If you notice yourself relaxing at the thought of things falling into rhythm, that's natural. If you don't notice anything at all, that's just as natural. These processes don't require your awareness to continue. Out beyond Neptune lies a region called the Kuiper Belt, a wide, scattered collection of icy objects. Some are small, some are quite large, and all of them move slowly around the sun, far from its warmth. Here, sunlight is faint, temperatures remain extremely cold. Change happens at a pace that is difficult to imagine. Objects in the Kuiper Belt may take hundreds of years to complete a single orbit. Some take thousands. Collisions are rare. Movement is subtle. This region has remained mostly unchanged since the early days of the solar system, preserving materials from a time before planets fully formed. It's a quiet archive, drifting in the dark. You don't need to picture its edges or its contents. You can simply let the idea of distant, unhurried motion exist somewhere beyond your thoughts, doing exactly what it has always done. And if your attention slips now, if the words blur or pause or disappear, the solar system remains. It continues its slow, steady patterns, unconcerned with being observed. You're free to rest alongside it, awake or asleep, held by the same calm gravity that keeps everything gently in place. In the inner part of the solar system, closer to the Sun, there is a different kind of quiet. Here, the planets are smaller and warmer, made mostly of rock and metal. They move more quickly than the outer giants, but their motions are just as predictable. Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars each follow a familiar path, repeating the same journey again and again. Mercury, the closest planet to the Sun, completes an orbit in just 88 Earth days. That may sound fast, but from Mercury's perspective, it is simply the natural pace of things. Day and night unfold slowly there. A single sunrise to sunrise can take longer than an entire year on Mercury. Time stretches and compresses in ways that feel unfamiliar, but never rushed. Venus rotates even more slowly. Its day is longer than its year. The planet turns gradually beneath thick clouds that reflect sunlight and soften shadows. At the surface, light would appear diffused, without sharp edges. You don't need to imagine standing there. It's enough to know that entire worlds experience time differently, and that none of them are in a hurry. Mars, farther out, is quieter still. Its thin atmosphere allows winds to move dust across wide plains, shaping the surface slowly. These changes take years, decades, centuries. Nothing sudden, nothing demanding attention. Between Mars and Jupiter lies a wide region filled with rocky remnants called the asteroid belt. Despite how it's often portrayed, this space is mostly empty. The asteroids are spread far apart, each following its own orbit around the Sun. They rarely interact. They simply move, quietly, through open space. Some asteroids are large, hundreds of kilometers across. Others are small, little more than loose collections of stone. All of them are leftovers from the early solar system, material that never became a planet. They've been circling the Sun for billions of years, unchanged in many ways, holding their shapes through time. You don't need to track them. You don't need to remember their names or numbers. They are there whether you're aware of them or not, moving through silence, doing what they have always done. Gravity is the gentle rule that connects everything in the solar system. It doesn't shout, it doesn't force, it simply pulls, steadily, shaping motion over long periods of time. The Sun's gravity keeps the planets in their paths. The planet's gravity shapes their moons. Even small objects influence one another in subtle ways. This pulling is constant, but not aggressive. It allows systems to settle into balance. Over time, chaotic motion becomes smoother. Orbits become more circular. Rotations slow. Energy spreads out. Astronomers describe this with equations and measurements, but the experience itself is quiet. It's a kind of cosmic patience, unfolding over spans of time far longer than a human life. If you feel a sense of calm here, that's natural. If you feel nothing at all, that's also natural. Gravity doesn't require an audience. Light from the Sun takes time to travel. Even though it feels immediate, it takes about 8 minutes for sunlight to reach Earth. When you see the Sun in the sky, you're seeing it as it was 8 minutes ago. This delay is small, but it's real. Farther out, the delay grows. Sunlight takes hours to reach Neptune. Beyond that, into the Kuiper Belt and farther still, the Sun becomes a bright point rather than a dominant presence. Light thins out, shadows soften. This means that every planet exists slightly out of sync with one another, each receiving light on its own schedule. The solar system is never entirely in the same moment. Different regions experience the Sun as it was, not as it is now. This quiet separation doesn't cause conflict. It's simply how space works. If that idea feels abstract, you don't need to hold it. It can pass by, like light itself, arriving and fading without effort. Some of the most relaxing places in the solar system are the moons. There are hundreds of them, each with its own environment, its own pace. Some are icy and still, some are rocky and cratered, some have underground oceans, hidden beneath thick shells of ice. On Europa, a moon of Jupiter, the surface is smooth and pale, crossed by long, dark lines. These lines are cracks in the ice, formed as the moon flexes gently under Jupiter's gravity. Below the ice, there is likely a vast ocean, kept liquid by internal heat. Nothing on the surface moves quickly. The ice shifts slowly, over long periods of time. On Titan, Saturn's largest moon, there are lakes and rivers not of water, but of liquid methane and ethane. Rain falls there, but slowly. Clouds drift. Seasons change over many years. The chemistry is complex, but the motion is calm. These moons don't demand attention. They exist as they are, distant and self-contained. If your thoughts drift here and then drift away, that's perfectly fine. Space itself plays a role in the calmness of the solar system. Between planets, between moons, there are enormous distances filled mostly with nothing. This emptiness isn't cold or hostile in an emotional sense. It's simply space quiet, open, unoccupied. Signals travel through it. Light moves through it. But there is no background noise, no constant motion. Most of the solar system is still, with objects separated by vast stretches of emptiness. When astronomers send spacecraft through these regions, they often travel for years without encountering anything at all, just steady movement, small course corrections, and long periods of waiting. These journeys mirror the solar system itself, slow, patient, unconcerned with speed. If you imagine that emptiness now, you don't need to fill it with detail. You can let it remain open, undefined, spacious. And if, as these ideas drift by, you notice your attention slipping, that's welcome here. You don't need to gather the facts or assemble them into meaning. The solar system doesn't ask that of you. It continues its motion whether you're listening, resting, or already asleep. Planets keep orbiting, moons keep turning, light keeps travelling outward, minute by minute, hour by hour. You're free to remain with these thoughts for as long as they feel comfortable, and you're just as free to let them dissolve, leaving only the quiet sense that something vast and steady is happening, gently, far beyond the need for your awareness. Far beyond the inner planets, past the familiar paths of Jupiter and Saturn, the solar system becomes darker and quieter still. Here, sunlight is weaker, spreading thinly across enormous distances. Uranus and Neptune move through this dimmer region, carrying their moons with them in wide, patient arcs. These planets are often called ice giants, not because they are frozen solid, but because much of their mass is made of substances like water, ammonia, and methane, compressed under immense pressure. Uranus is unusual in its posture. It rotates on its side, tilted so far that its poles take turns facing the sun directly as it travels around the sun. Each pole experiences decades of continuous daylight, followed by decades of night. The transitions between these seasons are extremely slow. There is no sudden sunrise or sunset, only gradual changes that unfold over years. If you imagine that kind of time, it doesn't need to be clear. It can remain soft and distant, like a half-remembered thought. Neptune, farther still, is known for its winds, some of the fastest measured in the solar system. But even these powerful winds move within a stable, repeating structure. Storms form and fade without urgency. The planet completes its slow orbit without deviation. Speed, here, doesn't mean agitation. It's simply motion within balance. If this feels abstract, that's okay. These planets don't require attention to continue their calm passage through space. Many objects in the solar system are shaped by cycles that repeat without variation. One of the quietest of these is precession, a slow, subtle change in the orientation of a spinning object. Earth experiences this, as do many other planets and moons. Over thousands of years, the direction of a planet's axis traces a gentle circle, like a spinning top gradually wobbling. This movement is extremely slow. It doesn't affect daily life. Most people never notice it at all, yet it continues, reliably, driven by gravitational influences that never stop acting. The night sky changes gradually because of it. Stars shift position over millennia, not days or years. You don't need to follow this motion. You don't need to imagine the geometry. It's enough to know that even what feels fixed and permanent is allowed to change slowly, quietly, without disruption. Comets are sometimes described as dramatic visitors, but most of their lives are spent in deep stillness. They originate far from the sun, in regions like the Kuiper Belt and the distant Oort cloud. There, they remain frozen and inactive for millions of years, drifting along wide, elongated orbits. Only when a comet approaches the inner solar system does it become visible. Sunlight warms its surface, releasing gas and dust that form a faint glow. This process is gradual. There is no sudden awakening, and once the comet passes the sun, it returns to the cold, quiet outskirts, where it will remain unchanged for a very long time. Most comets are never seen from Earth. They move in darkness, unnoticed, completing journeys that span entire eras. If you think about them now, you don't need to hold on to the image. They can fade back into the dark, just as they do naturally. The sun itself is often thought of as active and energetic, and it is, but its energy is remarkably steady. Every second, Nuclear fusion deep in its core converts hydrogen into helium, releasing light and heat. This process has been continuing for about 5 billion years. It will continue for billions more. The sun doesn't burn like a fire. There is no flame, no flicker. The fusion happens under conditions of immense pressure and temperature, balanced so precisely that the output remains stable over incredibly long spans of time. Solar output varies slightly, but these changes are small and slow. This steadiness allows planets to settle into their rhythms, climates stabilize, orbits remain consistent. Life, where it appears, has time to adapt. If the idea of such long-lasting stability feels comforting, you can rest there. If it feels distant, that's fine too. The sun continues its quiet work either way. Throughout the solar system, there are places where nothing much happens at all. Surfaces that haven't changed in billions of years. Craters that remain exactly as they were when they formed. On bodies without atmospheres, like Mercury or many moons, there is no wind to erase marks, no rain to soften edges. A footprint left there would remain for an unimaginably long time, not because it is preserved carefully, but because there is nothing to disturb it. Time passes, but without motion, time leaves little trace. You don't need to imagine leaving anything behind. This is simply how some places exist unchanged, undisturbed, content in stillness. Spacecraft that explore the solar system often spend long periods coasting. After an initial launch and a few adjustments, they drift, guided by gravity. There are stretches of months or years where nothing needs to happen at all. No commands, no corrections, just steady motion through open space. This way of traveling mirrors the solar system itself. Movement without urgency, progress without pressure. The destination matters less than the path, and even the path unfolds slowly. If your thoughts slow here, that's welcome. You're not required to keep pace with anything. Even sound behaves differently in the solar system. In space, there is no air to carry sound waves. Most of the solar system is completely silent in the way we understand silence. Collisions, explosions, storms, none of them produce sound that can travel through the vacuum. This doesn't mean nothing happens. It simply means events unfold without noise, motion without sound, change without announcement. If that silence feels spacious, you can let it surround the words you're hearing now. If it feels empty, you don't need to stay with it. The idea can drift away. Many moons keep their planets company in quiet companionship. They orbit steadily, rarely changing their distance or orientation. Some form resonant patterns, where their orbits influence one another in gentle, predictable ways. These resonances are stable. They persist for long periods without conflict. This kind of harmony doesn't require intention. It arises naturally from motion and gravity finding balance. Over time, systems settle into patterns that last. If you find yourself breathing more slowly now, or noticing your body settling, that's fine. If not, that's fine too. Nothing here requires a response. Across the solar system, time stretches in different ways. A year can be short or incredibly long. A day can last minutes or months. Yet none of these measures are more correct than another. They're simply local rhythms, shaped by distance and motion. The solar system doesn't keep one clock. Each world moves to its own quiet timing, repeating cycles that feel natural from where they are. There's no need to synchronize, no need to hurry. If your own sense of time feels loose right now, if moments blend together that fits comfortably here. As these facts continue to drift past, you may notice that you don't remember the earlier ones clearly. That's expected. Nothing is building toward a conclusion. Nothing needs to be retained. Planets continue their orbits. Moons continue their turns. Light continues to travel outward, thinning as it goes. You're welcome to remain with this gentle motion for as long as it feels pleasant, and you're just as welcome to let it fade into the background, knowing that the solar system carries on, calm and steady, without needing anything from you at all. In many parts of the solar system, change happens so slowly that it barely feels like change at all. On airless worlds, surfaces remain exposed for billions of years. There is no weather to soften them, no rain to rearrange them, no seasons to renew them. Craters overlap gently, marking time not in years, but in eons. On Mercury, for example, temperatures swing widely between day and night, yet the landscape itself remains almost untouched. Rocks fracture, shadows lengthen and shrink, but the ground keeps its shape. A ridge formed long ago still casts the same outline today. The planet holds on to its past without effort. You don't need to picture these places in detail. You can simply know that there are worlds where time passes quietly, leaving almost nothing behind. Some of the calmest motion in the solar system comes from rotation. Planets spin, moons spin, even the sun rotates, turning slowly on its axis. This turning is constant and even, not hurried or abrupt. Earth's rotation gives us day and night, but on many planets, a single rotation takes far longer. Jupiter spins quickly, completing a rotation in about 10 hours, while Venus turns so slowly that a day lasts longer than a year. Each of these rhythms feels natural to the world experiencing it. There is no preferred pace. Rotation doesn't require awareness. It continues whether anything notices or not. If your thoughts circle gently right now, returning to familiar places, that fits easily alongside these steady turns. In the space between planets, dust drifts almost imperceptibly. Tiny particles left over from comet tails, asteroid collisions, and ancient formation processes float in wide orbits around the Sun. They don't rush, they don't cluster dramatically, they simply move, guided by gravity and faint pressure from sunlight. This dust forms a thin, quiet background to the solar system. It scatters light slightly, creating a soft glow called zodiacal light, visible from Earth under dark skies. Most of the time, it goes unnoticed. It doesn't demand attention. You don't need to imagine these particles individually. It's enough to know that even emptiness contains gentle motion, slow and unremarkable. Some planets have atmospheres that behave in remarkably calm ways. On Titan, Saturn's large moon, clouds form and dissolve slowly. Rain falls not in sudden storms, but in steady, measured ways. Rivers carve channels over immense spans of time, flowing with liquid hydrocarbons instead of water. These processes follow familiar physical laws, but they unfold at a pace that feels softened, distant. Erosion happens quietly. Deposition happens quietly. Landscapes change without spectacle. If you imagine weather that doesn't hurry, you don't need to stay with the image. It can pass through your awareness and leave without settling. Even magnetic fields contribute to the solar system's gentle background activity. Earth has one, as do several other planets. These fields extend invisibly into space, guiding charged particles and shaping auroras. The interaction is continuous, but calm. Auroras brighten and fade without sound. They ripple slowly, responding to changes in solar wind that themselves are gradual. There is no urgency in the movement, no need for attention. If your mind feels a little unfocused now, that's welcome. Nothing here requires sharp edges or clear outlines. The solar wind itself is another example of steady, unremarkable motion. The Sun releases a constant stream of charged particles that flow outward through the solar system. This flow isn't a blast or a burst, it's a quiet outpouring, continuing day after day, year after year. As it travels, the solar wind interacts gently with planets and moons, shaping magnetospheres and atmospheres. Most of this interaction happens invisibly. There is no sign that anything is occurring at all. If you let this idea drift past without fully grasping it, that's perfectly fine. The solar wind will continue whether it's understood or not. Some of the most stable arrangements in the solar system are orbital resonances. These occur when two or more bodies orbit in simple numerical relationships, one orbit completing as another finishes 2, or 3. These patterns lock in gently, creating long-term stability. Moons of Jupiter and Saturn often move this way, keeping time with one another over billions of years. These relationships don't require correction. They persist naturally, like a shared rhythm that doesn't need to be counted. If you think of rhythm now, you don't need to follow it. It can exist in the background, steady and unobtrusive. Far away, beyond the Kuiper belt, lies the Oort cloud, a vast spherical region of icy bodies surrounding the solar system, if it exists as astronomers predict. It stretches nearly halfway to the nearest stars. Objects there move extremely slowly, taking millions of years to complete an orbit. In this region, the Sun is just one star among many influences. Passing stars can gently reshape orbits, nudging objects without violence. Change comes softly, across deep time. You don't need to picture this place clearly. It's enough to know that the solar system doesn't end abruptly. It fades gradually, blending into interstellar space. Spacecraft that leave the solar system do so quietly. There is no boundary line to cross, no sudden shift. As they travel outward, signals grow weaker. The Sun's influence diminishes slowly. Voyager 1 and Voyager 2 continue to move away from the Sun, sending back faint signals across immense distances. They carry no urgency, they simply continue, coasting through space. If you imagine long journeys now, they don't need destinations. Movement alone is enough. Throughout all of this, the solar system maintains a kind of emotional neutrality. It doesn't rush, it doesn't pause, it doesn't react to being observed. Facts remain facts whether they're remembered or forgotten. Processes continue whether they're understood or not. If you notice yourself drifting farther from the words now, that's exactly as intended. You're not missing anything essential. Nothing here depends on continuity. Planets will keep turning, dust will keep drifting, light will keep moving outward into dark space. You're welcome to stay with these quiet motions for as long as they feel comfortable, and you're just as welcome to let them soften and blur, leaving behind only a vague sense of steadiness, something calm and ongoing, far beyond the need for your attention. In some parts of the solar system, motion is so subtle that it feels almost like stillness. Moons circle their planets along paths that rarely change. Distances remain constant. Angles repeat. From one orbit to the next, very little is different. Take the many small moons that orbit the outer planets. Some are irregular in shape, more like gently rounded stones than spheres. They turn slowly as they move, showing different faces to space, but doing so without drama. Their surfaces are marked by ancient impacts, unchanged for immense spans of time. No atmosphere moves across them. No weather softens their edges. They exist quietly, content to remain as they are. If you imagine one of these moons now, you don't need to keep it sharp. The image can blur, it can fade. The moon itself will remain, tracing the same calm path regardless. One of the gentlest processes in the solar system is cooling. Planets and moons gradually lose heat over time, radiating it away into space. This happens very slowly. There is no moment when a world suddenly becomes cold. Instead, warmth disperses across millions or billions of years. Mars, for example, was once warmer and wetter. Rivers flowed, lakes collected. Over time, the planet cooled, its atmosphere thinning gradually. Water froze or evaporated. The change was not abrupt. There was no single ending point, just a long, quiet transition. Cooling continues everywhere. Even Earth slowly releases heat into space. So does the Moon. So does the Sun, in its own balanced way. If you think about long processes now, you don't need to follow them to completion. They can remain unfinished in your mind, just as they are in reality. Across the solar system, shadows behave differently than they do on Earth. On worlds without thick atmospheres, shadows are sharp and steady. They don't blur, they don't shimmer. They stretch slowly as the sun moves across the sky. On Mercury, a shadow cast by a crater wall can remain nearly unchanged for weeks. In permanently shadowed regions near the poles, sunlight never reaches the ground at all. Ice can remain there, preserved in darkness, untouched by warmth. Nothing disturbs it. Nothing asks it to change. If you imagine darkness now, it doesn't need to feel heavy or empty. It can simply be absence of light, neutral and calm. Even impacts in the solar system often happen quietly, especially on a human scale. When a small meteor strikes a moon or planet with no atmosphere, there is no sound. The energy releases instantly, forming a crater, then settling. Dust falls back into place. Stillness returns. These events are rare. Most of the time, nothing strikes anything at all. Space is wide, distances are large, encounters are uncommon. If the idea of silence feels noticeable right now, you can let it surround the words gently. If not, that's fine too. Silence doesn't insist on being felt. Some planets experience seasons, but even those can be calm. On Earth, seasons change relatively quickly. On other worlds, they unfold slowly, over many years. On Saturn, a single season lasts more than 7 Earth years. Sunlight gradually shifts from one hemisphere to the other. Temperatures change slowly. Cloud patterns adjust without urgency. On Uranus, seasons last decades. There are long periods of steady light and steady darkness. Nothing flips suddenly. Nothing demands adjustment. If you imagine a season lasting that long, you don't need to picture its beginning or end. It can exist as a continuous state, like a thought that doesn't need resolution. The solar system also contains many boundaries that aren't sharp. The edge of a planet's atmosphere fades gradually into space. The influence of the sun weakens slowly with distance. There are no clear lines marking where one region ends and another begins. Even the boundary of the solar system itself is soft. The heliosphere, shaped by the solar wind, extends outward and thins gradually. Beyond it, interstellar space begins, but not suddenly. One becomes the other without ceremony. If you notice yourself letting go of definitions now, that fits naturally here. Most things in space don't have clear edges. Time behaves gently in these environments. Without frequent change, moments blend together. There are no daily schedules, no markers demanding awareness. 1,000 years can pass without anything noticeable occurring on some surfaces. Craters remain crisp, ice remains frozen, rocks stay where they are. If your sense of time feels loose right now, if you're not sure how long you've been listening, that mirrors the way time stretches in much of the solar system. Some spacecraft have orbited planets for years, taking slow, repetitive measurements. They pass over the same regions again and again, tracing familiar paths. Each orbit adds a little more information, but nothing urgent. Data accumulates gradually, patiently. There are long stretches where a spacecraft simply follows its trajectory, guided by gravity alone. No adjustments, no changes, just motion continuing. If the idea of repetition feels calming, you can stay with it. If it doesn't, you don't need to push it away. Repetition exists whether it's noticed or not. The solar system is also full of objects that never interact at all, paths that never cross, distances that never close. Most bodies move through space without ever encountering one another. This separation isn't lonely in a cosmic sense, it's simply spacious. It allows things to exist without interference. If you imagine open space now, you don't need to fill it. It can remain open. Throughout all of this, nothing is asking you to stay awake. Nothing is asking you to remember. These facts don't build toward a conclusion. They don't depend on sequence. If you've forgotten what came earlier, that's expected. If you're only catching fragments, that's enough. Planets continue turning. Moons continue circling. Heat continues to drift away into space. You're welcome to remain alongside these gentle processes for as long as you like, and you're just as welcome to let the words soften and fade, knowing that the solar system carries on in the same calm way, whether you're listening, resting, or already asleep. Across the solar system, there are places where gravity creates quiet pockets of balance. These are called Lagrange points regions, where the pull of a planet and the pull of the sun gently counteract one another. Objects placed there can remain in roughly the same position for long periods of time, not because they are held firmly, but because the forces around them are evenly shared. Spacecraft sometimes rest in these regions, drifting slightly, making small adjustments, but mostly staying where they are. There is no sense of anchoring or holding on, just a soft equilibrium, maintained moment by moment. If you imagine floating now, you don't need to imagine direction or destination, only the feeling of being supported by balance itself. On some moons, gravity is so gentle that a slow walk would feel like a long glide. A small jump could carry you farther than expected, landing without impact. There is no need for strength or effort. Movement becomes light, extended, almost leisurely. These environments don't rush motion, they stretch it out. They allow actions to unfold slowly, without sharp beginnings or endings. If your own movements feel slower right now, breathing easing, muscles softening that fits comfortably alongside these gentle gravitational fields. The solar system also contains slow dances between pairs of objects, binary systems, where two bodies orbit a shared center of mass, move together in calm coordination. Neither leads, neither follows. They simply turn around one another, again and again. Some binary asteroids do this. So do distant icy objects beyond Neptune. Their orbits are stable, predictable, unhurried. They don't collide, they don't drift apart. They remain together, balanced by gravity, moving as a pair through wide space. If you imagine two things moving together now, there's no need to define them. It can just be the idea of shared motion, steady and quiet. The sun's energy reaches the solar system in a steady flow, but it spreads thinly with distance. Close to the sun, light is strong and direct. Farther away, it becomes softer, more diffuse. By the time it reaches the outer planets, sunlight feels more like a gentle presence than a dominant force. This gradual fading doesn't interrupt anything. Planets adapt naturally to the light they receive. Temperatures settle. Atmospheres adjust. Nothing struggles against the conditions. If you notice the light around you now, whether it's bright, dim, or somewhere in between, you don't need to change it. Different levels of light are all part of the same quiet system. In many regions of space, temperature remains almost constant. Far from the sun, there is little variation, no warm days or cold nights, just steady cold, maintained over immense spans of time. This constancy allows materials to remain unchanged. Ice stays ice, rock stays rock. Molecules move slowly, conserving energy. There is no pressure to transform. If the idea of constancy feels soothing, you can rest there. If it feels distant or abstract, it can pass by without needing attention. The solar system contains countless small vibrations and oscillations that never rise into notice. Rings gently flex, atmospheres ripple faintly, magnetic fields pulse quietly. These motions are continuous, but subtle. Nothing sharp interrupts them, they don't build toward anything, they simply continue, like background motion that doesn't need to be observed. If your thoughts feel faint or fragmented right now, that mirrors these small, ongoing motions. Nothing needs to be gathered or resolved. Some worlds experience eclipses that happen with perfect regularity. Moons pass in front of planets, shadows glide across cloud tops, light dims and returns without drama. On Jupiter, its large moons cast dark, circular shadows that move smoothly across the planet's surface. They don't flicker, they don't surprise. Astronomers can predict their paths centuries in advance. If you imagine a shadow moving slowly now, you don't need to see where it begins or ends. Just the idea of gradual change is enough. There are places in the solar system where horizons barely exist. On small moons and asteroids, the surface curves away quickly. A few steps can reveal the sky in all directions. There is no long distance to look across. Everything feels close and contained. This closeness doesn't create confinement, it creates simplicity. No wide vistas, no far edges, just immediate surroundings, unchanged and quiet. If your awareness feels narrow right now, focused only on sound or breath, or nothing in particular that fits easily here, the paths planets follow around the sun are nearly circular. They aren't perfect circles, but close enough that the distance changes only slightly over the course of an orbit. This prevents extremes. Temperatures remain within stable ranges. Seasons, where they exist, remain moderate. This near-circular motion is another form of balance, not exact, not rigid, but steady enough to last for billions of years. If the idea of something being close enough feels comforting, you can let that thought rest. Perfection isn't required for stability. Throughout the solar system, energy tends to spread out rather than concentrate. Heat radiates away, motion gradually smooths, sharp differences soften over time. This tendency doesn't rush, it doesn't complete itself, it simply continues, allowing systems to settle. If you notice your own energy spreading out now, attention loosening, effort fading that's entirely in harmony with this quiet direction of change, there are moments when nothing noticeable happens at all. No collisions, no flares, no shifts, just continued motion along familiar paths. These uneventful stretches make up most of the solar system's history. They don't stand out, they don't get named, but they are where stability lives. If you find yourself in a mental space where nothing particular is happening, that's not a gap. It's part of the experience. As these facts drift by, you may no longer be certain which ones you've heard before. Some may feel familiar, some may blur together. That's expected. Nothing here depends on sequence or clarity. The solar system doesn't organize itself into lessons, it simply continues. Planets follow their paths, moons keep their quiet company, light keeps moving outward, thinning as it goes. You don't need to stay with these ideas. You don't need to let them go. They can remain gently present, like distant motion you're aware of without watching closely. And as everything out there continues in its calm, repeating ways, you're free to do the same, resting, drifting, or simply being here, for as long as it feels natural. In the solar system, even motion that seems dramatic from far away often settles into calm repetition. Volcanoes, for example, exist beyond Earth, but they behave differently in different places. On Io, one of Jupiter's moons, volcanic activity is frequent, yet it follows familiar patterns. Eruptions release heat and material, then subside. Lava flows cool and harden. The surface reshapes itself slowly, cycle after cycle. There is no build-up toward a final eruption, no sense of culmination, just ongoing release and settling, driven by internal heat and gravity. Io's activity has been continuing for millions of years, repeating the same processes again and again. If the idea of repetition feels noticeable now, you don't need to evaluate it. It can simply exist. Like a rhythm you don't have to count. Elsewhere, Volcanic worlds are quieter. Some moons show evidence of past eruptions, frozen in place. Plains of solidified lava remain unchanged, preserving a moment from deep time. Nothing moves across them now. The heat that once shaped them has dispersed gently into space. If you imagine warmth fading slowly, you don't need to imagine when it ends. Cooling doesn't rush toward completion. It unfolds gradually, without announcement. In the outer regions of the solar system, ice behaves in calm and unfamiliar ways. On Pluto, nitrogen and methane ice move like slow glaciers. They flow, but at a pace almost impossible to notice. Over thousands of years, surfaces reshape themselves quietly. Pluto's seasons last centuries. As it travels along its elongated orbit, sunlight increases and fades gently. Ice sublimates into thin atmosphere, then settles back onto the surface. Nothing about this process demands attention. It repeats, cycle after cycle, without urgency. If you notice your awareness thinning here, that's welcome. These cycles don't need to be followed closely. They continue whether they're observed or not. Even impacts, when they do occur, often lead back to stillness quickly. A collision forms a crater, releasing energy in a brief moment. Then dust settles. Fragments come to rest. Silence returns. Over time, micrometeorites add tiny marks, barely noticeable. Most surfaces spend far more time unchanged than altered. Stillness is the default state. If the idea of things returning to rest feels comforting, you can stay with that. If not, it can pass through without staying. The solar system is filled with circular motion that doesn't seek an endpoint. Orbits don't aim toward completion. They don't conclude. They simply repeat. Earth has circled the Sun billions of times. So has every other planet, each at its own pace. There is no final orbit waiting ahead, just continued motion, familiar and predictable. If you find your thoughts looping gently now revisiting the same ideas without progressing, that mirrors this orbital calm, nothing needs to advance. Light itself follows paths that soften with distance. As sunlight travels outward, it spreads, becoming less concentrated. By the time it reaches the outer solar system, it illuminates without glare. Shadows are softer, contrasts are reduced. This gradual diffusion happens naturally. There is no switch from bright to dark, just steady fading. If your surroundings feel dimmer now, or if your attention feels less sharply focused, that aligns with how light behaves far from its source. Many moons are locked into resonant patterns that prevent chaos. They tug on one another gently, keeping their orbits stable. These interactions don't create conflict, they create consistency. For billions of years, these systems have maintained their balance. Small adjustments occur, but nothing breaks apart. Stability emerges from repetition. If the idea of balance without effort feels soothing, you can let it remain. If not, there's no need to push against it. The Sun itself moves through space, carrying the entire solar system along with it. Together, the planets, moons, and smaller bodies travel around the center of the Milky Way. This motion is vast and slow. One full orbit around the galaxy takes hundreds of millions of years. Yet even this journey feels steady rather than dramatic. The solar system maintains its internal calm as it moves. Paths remain intact. Relationships remain stable. If you imagine traveling without feeling motion, that sensation fits here. Movement doesn't always announce itself. Some parts of the solar system are defined more by absence than by presence. Wide gaps between rings, empty stretches between planets, regions where nothing large has formed. These empty spaces aren't failures or leftovers. They are part of the structure. They allow motion without interference. They create room for stability. If your mind feels spacious now, not filled with thoughts, not focused on anything, that openness is welcome. Nothing needs to fill it. Over long periods, energy differences even out, hot areas cool, fast motion slow, sharp edges soften. This gradual leveling doesn't erase everything, it simply reduces extremes. The solar system trends toward calm without ever fully reaching it. Change continues, but gently. If you notice yourself settling not asleep, not fully alert, that in-between state fits comfortably here. There are countless small objects moving through the solar system that will never interact with anything else. Grains of dust, tiny fragments. They follow paths that never cross. They exist without encounter. This separation doesn't imply isolation. It's simply the natural spacing of things in a vast system. If you imagine being present without interaction, without demand, that feeling mirrors much of space. As these thoughts drift by, you may notice that they no longer form a clear sequence. One idea blends into another. Details soften, names fade. That's expected. This isn't a story that needs to be followed. It's a quiet landscape that you can move through at any pace, or not at all. Planets continue their orbits. Ice continues to shift imperceptibly. Light continues to thin as it travels outward. You don't need to stay aware of any of this. The solar system doesn't rely on attention to remain calm. You're welcome to let these ideas remain loosely present, like distant motion you're aware of without watching, and you're just as welcome to let them dissolve entirely, leaving only a sense of steadiness, something ongoing, balanced and gentle, continuing far beyond the need for your awareness. In the solar system, many of the longest-lasting processes are the quietest ones. Consider erosion on worlds without flowing water. On Earth, landscapes change quickly, rivers carve valleys, wind reshapes dunes, rain softens edges. But on places like the Moon or Mercury, erosion moves at a different pace. Micrometeorites arrive gently, one grain at a time. Solar radiation nudges atoms loose from the surface. Changes happen, but they are spread so thinly across time that the land appears unchanged. A rock resting on the Moon today may have been resting there for millions of years. Its position hasn't been reconsidered. Its shape hasn't been smoothed. Nothing has asked it to move. If you imagine that kind of stillness, you don't need to admire it or analyze it. It can simply exist as an example of how little urgency there is in most of the solar system. Some planets and moons experience tides, but even tides can be calm. On Earth, tides rise and fall every day, pulled by the Moon and the Sun. On other worlds, tidal motion happens more slowly, stretching and relaxing surfaces over long periods of time. Europa, one of Jupiter's moons, flexes gently as it orbits. Its ice shell rises and falls slightly, responding to gravity. This motion creates heat deep inside, enough to keep an ocean liquid beneath the ice, but at the surface, everything looks still. The ice cracks form gradually. They don't snap or break suddenly. They spread quietly, millimeter by millimeter, year after year. If you notice yourself responding more to the idea of gentleness than to the details, that's fine. The details don't need to be held. The solar system is full of objects that reflect light rather than producing it. Planets shine in the night sky not because they glow, but because they borrow light from the sun. This reflected light is softer than direct light. It carries no heat of its own. It simply returns what it receives. When you see Jupiter or Venus in the sky, you're seeing sunlight that traveled to them, touched their clouds, and then traveled back to Earth. That light has already been softened by distance. It has already been diffused. Nothing about it is sharp or demanding. If your awareness feels indirect right now, not fully focused, not entirely absent that mirrors this borrowed light, presence without intensity. Across the solar system, many movements are governed by conservation rather than change. Angular momentum stays balanced. Energy redistributes instead of disappearing. Nothing needs to be forced into motion. It continues because it already is. This is why planets keep orbiting without effort, why moons keep circling without fuel, why spinning bodies keep spinning. They aren't being pushed forward each moment, they are simply not being stopped. If that idea feels reassuring motion without effort, you can let it settle. If it feels abstract, you don't need to translate it into understanding. Some of the quietest objects in the solar system are the smallest ones. Dust grains drift through sunlight, pebbles circle the sun unnoticed. Fragments left from ancient collisions move along paths that never intersect with anything else. These objects don't accumulate stories. They don't develop histories beyond motion itself. They exist in a state of ongoing continuation. If your thoughts feel small or faint right now, that doesn't make them unimportant. Small things are the majority in space. Many planets have regions where sunlight never reaches. Permanently shadowed craters near the poles remain dark year after year. In these places, temperatures stay extremely low. Ice can persist for billions of years without melting. There is no sense of deprivation here. Darkness is simply the condition. Nothing waits for light to arrive. If you imagine darkness now, it doesn't need to feel heavy or enclosing. It can be spacious, open, and quiet. The solar system also contains long pauses between events. Solar flares occur, but not constantly. Impacts happen, but rarely. Storms form, but then they settle. Most of the time, nothing in particular is happening. This is not emptiness, it's stability. If your mind feels like it's resting between thoughts, that's not a gap that needs filling, it's part of the rhythm. So moons slowly drift farther from their planets over time. Our moon is doing this, moving away from Earth by a few centimeters each year. This change is so slow that it's impossible to notice directly. Generations pass without perceiving any difference at all. This gradual drifting doesn't signal separation in an emotional sense. It's simply how energy balances itself. Even relationships in space are allowed to loosen gently, without breaking. If the idea of slow change feels present for you now, you don't need to label it. Change doesn't have to announce itself to be real. In the outer solar system, chemical reactions happen at extremely low temperatures. Molecules rearrange themselves slowly, forming complex structures over long spans of time. Nothing bubbles or boils, nothing rushes. On Titan, these slow reactions create organic compounds that settle onto the surface like fine dust. Layer by layer, chemistry unfolds quietly. If you imagine processes unfolding without urgency, you don't need to imagine their outcome. The unfolding itself is enough. The paths of planets are slightly tilted relative to one another. Nothing lines up perfectly. Yet this lack of perfect alignment doesn't create instability. It allows flexibility. Orbits adjust gently over time without crossing or colliding. This kind of near order is common in nature. Things don't need to be exact to be stable. If your own thoughts feel slightly misaligned, not forming a straight line, that's not a problem. Stability doesn't require precision. Spacecraft that orbit planets often pass through the same regions repeatedly. They see the same landscapes under slightly different lighting. Each pass adds subtle variation, but nothing fundamentally new. This repetition isn't boring to the spacecraft. It isn't boring to the planet. It simply is. If repetition feels calming right now, you can let it continue. If it fades into the background, that's fine too. The solar system has no central audience. Nothing performs. Nothing waits to be noticed. Processes continue whether they're named or unnamed, measured or unmeasured. This lack of expectation creates a kind of freedom, existence without evaluation. If you feel less inclined to evaluate anything right now, including yourself, that fits naturally here, across billions of kilometers, gravity keeps working quietly, light keeps traveling outward, heat keeps dispersing, motion keeps smoothing itself over time. Nothing here demands effort, nothing requires holding on. As these segments drift past, you may not recall where one ended and another began. They don't need clear edges. They don't build toward anything. Planets continue their familiar paths. Moons continue their quiet companionship. Ice continues to remain frozen where it has always been. You're welcome to remain gently aware of these motions, and you're just as welcome to let them blur completely, leaving behind only a sense of steadiness, something ongoing, unhurried and kind, continuing far beyond the need for your attention. In the solar system, many relationships unfold without ever being noticed. Planets influence one another through gravity, but often only in the smallest ways. A slight tug here, a barely measurable adjustment there. Over long periods, these influences smooth motion rather than disrupting it. For example, the orbits of planets are not perfectly fixed. They shift gently over thousands and millions of years, guided by shared gravity. These changes don't cause confusion or instability. They are part of how the system stays balanced. Nothing is locked rigidly in place. Everything is allowed a small amount of freedom. If you notice your own thoughts drifting slightly, not fixed, not focused, that gentle looseness fits comfortably here. Balance doesn't require holding tightly. Some of the calmest environments in the solar system are those shaped by pressure rather than motion. Deep inside planets like Jupiter and Saturn, materials exist under immense weight. Hydrogen behaves in unfamiliar ways, compressed into dense metallic states. Yet despite the extremes, these layers remain stable. There are no sudden shifts, no cracking or collapsing. Pressure and gravity hold everything in place, evenly distributed. Energy moves slowly, conducted outward over long spans of time. You don't need to imagine these interiors clearly. It's enough to know that even under extreme conditions, systems can remain calm and ordered. The solar system also contains many cycles that never align perfectly, yet never conflict. A moon's orbit may take days, while its planet's year takes decades. These cycles overlap without interfering. Each continues on its own schedule. This layered timing creates a sense of quiet complexity. Multiple rhythms existing together without competition. Nothing needs to synchronize. Nothing needs to speed up or slow down to match something else. If your own internal rhythms feel uneven alertness rising and falling, that's not a problem here. The solar system is comfortable with mismatched timing. On some planets, clouds move in broad, unbroken bands. On Jupiter and Saturn, these cloud layers wrap all the way around the planet, circling endlessly. They don't form isolated storms and then vanish. They persist, flowing smoothly around the globe. Within these bands, winds move at steady speeds. They don't gust suddenly. They maintain direction and pace for long periods. The effect is one of continuity rather than interruption. If you imagine movement that doesn't start or stop, just continues, that sense of flow fits naturally here. The solar system also carries with it a deep memory of its formation. Disks of dust and gas once surrounded the young sun. Over time, particles collided gently, sticking together. Larger bodies formed slowly, not explosively. Even now, remnants of that early disk remain in the form of rings, belts, and scattered objects. They preserve a record of long-past conditions without actively changing. History lingers quietly in structure rather than in events. If you think about memory now, it doesn't need to be sharp or accessible. In space, memory exists without recall. Many objects in the solar system rotate with remarkable steadiness. Once a rotation rate is established, it tends to persist. There is no engine maintaining it, no effort required. It simply continues. This persistence comes from conservation laws that don't need attention to function. They apply equally whether anything is observed or not. Motion sustains itself naturally. If you notice your breathing or heartbeat continuing without conscious control, that quiet persistence mirrors this same principle. Some of the most distant objects in the solar system are influenced as much by passing stars as by the Sun itself, over millions of years. A star drifting nearby can gently reshape an orbit, nudging it slightly inward or outward. These interactions are rare and subtle. They don't disrupt the entire system. Change arrives softly, spread across time so vast that no single moment carries weight. The solar system absorbs these influences without resistance. If the idea of being affected gently, rather than abruptly, feels comforting, you can let that feeling rest. The colours of planets often appear muted rather than bright. Even vivid worlds like Jupiter or Neptune display tones softened by thick atmospheres and distance. Light scatters, edges blur, nothing appears sharply defined. This softness isn't a flaw, it's the natural result of light moving through gas, dust, and space. Clarity gives way to gradation. If your perception feels slightly blurred right now, sounds blending together, thoughts lacking sharp outlines, that softness belongs here. Across the solar system, there is no central direction of progress, no goal being approached. Processes don't move toward improvement or decline. They simply unfold according to physical laws. A planet doesn't become better by cooling. A moon doesn't fail by losing atmosphere. These are neutral changes, without judgment. If you find yourself releasing a valuation of ideas, of moments, of yourself, that neutrality is shared widely in space. Some moons show evidence of slow resurfacing. Ice rises from below, cracks open gradually. Old surfaces are replaced without erasing the past entirely. This renewal doesn't aim for novelty, it simply balances internal pressure. Change serves stability rather than disruption. If you imagine renewal without urgency, without a need to improve, that idea can drift quietly alongside you. The solar system is also shaped by long periods of waiting. Millions of years can pass between notable events. Most of existence is uneventful, steady, continuous. These stretches don't feel empty from a cosmic perspective. They are the norm. Moments of activity are brief interruptions in an otherwise calm background. If your current moment feels uneventful, that doesn't mean nothing is happening. It means you're aligned with the majority of cosmic time. Some regions of space are warmed not by sunlight, but by internal heat. Radioactive elements decay slowly inside planets and moons, releasing energy gradually. This heat seeps outward, unnoticed at the surface. There is no flare or signal announcing it, just a quiet contribution to long-term balance. If you imagine warmth that doesn't need to be felt to exist, that subtlety fits easily here. The solar system contains no absolute stillness, but much of its motion is barely perceptible. Tiny oscillations, minute shifts, background processes that never rise into awareness. This kind of near stillness allows stability to persist. Nothing overwhelms anything else. If your thoughts feel faint or half-formed or not fully present, they're in good company. Even the most familiar patterns, sunrise and sunset. Phases of the moon are the result of simple geometry repeating. There is no intention behind them, no message, just angles and motion aligning again and again. Their predictability comes not from control, but from consistency. The same inputs produce the same outcomes. If predictability feels calming right now, you can rest there. If it fades into the background, that's fine too. Across all these processes, the solar system remains indifferent to observation. It doesn't change when watched. It doesn't respond to attention. This indifference is not cold, it's freeing. Nothing depends on you being present. Nothing asks you to stay alert. If you drift, everything continues. If you sleep, everything continues. Planets follow their gentle paths. Light spreads outward. Heat disperses. Time passes without emphasis. You're welcome to remain alongside these quiet facts for as long as they feel comfortable. And you're just as welcome to let them blur completely, leaving behind only a sense of steadiness, something calm, neutral, and ongoing, continuing quietly, whether or not you're aware of it. In the solar system, many motions are shaped by repetition so gentle that it feels almost like rest. Consider the way moons return to the same positions again and again. Each orbit brings them back to familiar alignments, casting the same shadows, reflecting the same light. Nothing about this repetition is meant to impress. It simply happens, quietly, reliably. For some moons, these patterns have remained unchanged for billions of years. The same side faces their planet. The same craters face outward towards space. Even as time passes, orientation stays familiar. This steadiness doesn't come from effort. It comes from gravity finding a comfortable arrangement and remaining there. If your own attention feels repetitive right now, circling the same thoughts, or returning to nothing at all, that gentle looping fits easily alongside these orbits. In many regions of the solar system, motion is guided not by direct contact, but by invisible fields. Magnetic fields extend quietly around planets, shaping the movement of charged particles. They don't push or pull sharply. They guide, curve, and redirect. Around Earth, this interaction creates auroras, soft curtains of light that drift and fade. Around other planets, similar displays occur, unseen by human eyes. These lights don't announce themselves. They appear, linger briefly, and dissolve. If you imagine light that doesn't demand attention appearing and fading without needing to be named, that image can remain softly present or drift away on its own. Some of the calmest changes in the solar system involve chemistry rather than motion. On cold worlds, chemical reactions proceed slowly, sometimes taking thousands of years to complete a single step. Molecules rearrange themselves at a pace that feels almost static. On Titan, complex organic compounds form in the upper atmosphere and settle gently onto the surface. Layer by layer, material accumulates. Nothing reacts suddenly. Nothing rushes to completion. If you think of change that unfolds too slowly to notice, you don't need to follow it. It can remain unfinished in your awareness, just as it is unfinished in reality. Throughout the solar system, there are rhythms that don't align with human expectations of time. A single sunrise might take weeks, a season might last decades, a year might span centuries. These rhythms aren't inconvenient where they occur, they are simply normal. Life, where it exists, adapts, matter adjusts. Nothing waits for time to behave differently. If your sense of time feels stretched or compressed right now, if minutes feel longer or shorter than expected, that flexibility fits naturally here. The solar system also contains many examples of gentle accumulation. Dust settles on surfaces at an almost immeasurable rate, a few grains per century, a thin layer over millions of years. On airless bodies, this dust remains where it falls. It doesn't blow away, it doesn't wash off. Over deep time, it forms a quiet record of countless small arrivals. If you imagine small things adding up without effort or intention, you don't need to see the final result. Accumulation doesn't aim for completion. In some places, the solar system offers long periods of uniformity. Temperatures remain steady, lighting changes little. Conditions stay the same for vast spans of time. This uniformity doesn't create boredom, it creates stability. Nothing needs to adjust or respond. Everything simply continues as it is. If your surroundings feel unchanging right now, same sounds, same stillness, that sameness is not a problem. It's part of a wider pattern. The paths of comets provide another kind of quiet repetition. Though their orbits are long and stretched, they follow the same trajectory each time they return. They pass near the sun, release a little material, then drift back into the cold. Each return is similar to the last, though never exactly the same. Small changes accumulate slowly, altering the comet's surface without disrupting its path. If the idea of returning without needing to arrive feels present now, you can let it rest. Cycles don't require destinations. Even the sun's surface, which appears active, follows patterns that repeat. Dark spots appear and fade, bright regions shift. These changes follow an approximately 11-year cycle. A cycle doesn't build toward a conclusion. It doesn't resolve. It simply rises and falls, again and again, without commentary. If you notice waves of alertness or drowsiness within yourself rising, easing, returning, that gentle cycling mirrors the sun's own quiet rhythm. The solar system contains no absolute centers of attention, no place where everything converges. Even the sun, massive and bright, does not command focus. It simply exists as one part of a larger structure. Planets orbit it, but they do not aim toward it. They move sideways, maintaining distance through balance. If you feel no need to focus on anything right now, no center to hold that spaciousness fits easily here. Some worlds are shaped primarily by absence, lack of atmosphere, lack of liquid, lack of frequent change. These absences are not deficits. They define the environment. They allow stillness to persist. If you imagine space without filling it, without sound, without motion, you don't need to stay with the image. It can remain undefined. Across the solar system, energy tends to disperse rather than concentrate. Heat flows outward, motion spreads, sharp differences soften. This tendency doesn't eliminate variation. It simply prevents extremes from lasting forever. If your own energy feels diffused right now, not focused, not intense, that diffusion is part of a natural pattern. Many orbits are slightly inclined relative to one another. Nothing lines up perfectly, yet these slight differences don't cause disruption. They allow motion to continue smoothly without interference. Stability arises not from strict alignment, but from flexibility. If your thoughts feel slightly tilted, not lining up neatly, that looseness is not a problem. It's often what allows things to continue. The solar system also carries traces of events that happened long ago without emphasizing them. A crater here, a scar there. These marks remain, but they don't dominate. Time passes over them gently. Nothing tries to erase them. Nothing highlights them either. If memories surface briefly and then fade again, that movement fits comfortably here. Presence doesn't require holding on. Some planets emit more heat than they receive from the sun. This extra warmth comes from deep interiors, released slowly over time. It doesn't surge outward, it seeps. This slow release contributes to atmospheric motion and subtle weather patterns. Nothing dramatic, nothing urgent. If you imagine warmth that doesn't need to be felt to exist, you can let that idea rest without forming an image. The solar system contains countless small cycles nested inside larger ones. A moon's orbit inside a planet's year inside a solar cycle inside a galactic orbit. These layers don't compete, they coexist. Each continues on its own scale. If your awareness feels layered right now, some thoughts present, others fading, that gentle overlap is welcome. There is no requirement to keep track of any of this. No need to remember which fact followed which. Nothing here builds toward understanding. Planets continue turning whether they're named or unnamed. Light continues spreading whether it's noticed or not. If you've forgotten parts of what you've heard, that's expected. If you're only hearing fragments, that's enough. You're free to remain alongside these quiet motions for as long as they feel comfortable. And you're just as free to let them blur completely, leaving only a soft sense of steadiness, something ongoing and calm continuing gently, without asking anything of you at all. In the solar system, there are patterns that repeat so reliably they begin to feel like background presence rather than events. One of these is the way planets trace their path through space without ever leaving them. They don't wander, they don't search. They return to the same regions of space again and again, guided by gravity that doesn't need to be renewed. Earth has followed its orbit billions of times, passing the same points, experiencing the same angles of sunlight, repeating familiar geometry. So have the other planets, each in their own wider or narrower lanes. Nothing marks the completion of one orbit or the beginning of the next. The motion simply continues. If your awareness feels cyclical right now, drifting away, then gently returning that looping mirrors this orbital calm. Nothing is lost when attention wanders. Everything comes back in its own time. Some of the quietest places in the solar system are those shaped primarily by gravity and little else. Small moons and asteroids exist in a state of near-permanent stillness. They rotate slowly, if at all. They hold their shapes without pressure to change. These bodies don't experience erosion in any familiar sense. There is no air to move across them, no water to reshape them. Their surfaces become records of long continuity rather than transformation. If you imagine a place where nothing is asking to happen, that sense of permission fits naturally here. Stillness doesn't need justification. The solar system also contains many gradual transitions rather than clear boundaries. A planet's atmosphere thins slowly as it rises, fading into space without a defined edge. The sun's influence weakens with distance, but never switches off. One region becomes another without ceremony. Even the space between planets is not truly empty. It contains faint particles, stray atoms, thin fields of energy. But none of these assert themselves. They simply exist, lightly. If you find yourself moving between wakefulness and sleep, not fully in either, the in-between state mirrors these soft transitions. There is no need to choose one side. Across the solar system, motion often conserves itself rather than demanding renewal. A spinning planet doesn't need to be pushed to keep turning. An orbiting moon doesn't need guidance to stay on its path. Once established, these motions persist. This persistence doesn't require effort. It arises naturally from balance. Energy continues because there is nothing interrupting it. If you notice parts of your body continuing without conscious control breathing, heartbeat, that quiet continuity belongs to the same family of motion. Nothing needs supervision to continue. In many regions of space, temperature remains remarkably stable. Far from the sun, there are no sudden warmings or coolings. Conditions hold steady over immense spans of time. Ice remains ice, rock remains rock. This steadiness allows matter to rest in its current form without pressure to change. Nothing waits for a signal, nothing anticipates a shift. If the idea of remaining as you are feels present right now, you don't need to define it. Stability doesn't need explanation. The solar system contains long arcs of time when nothing notable occurs. No impacts, no eruptions, no storms, just continued motion along familiar paths. These uneventful stretches make up most of cosmic history. They are not pauses between important moments. They are the default state. If your current moment feels unremarkable, no strong thoughts, no sharp sensations, that doesn't mean it's empty. It means it aligns with the majority of time in space. Some planets and moons experience very slow internal change. Heat trapped deep inside seeps outward gradually. Materials shift under pressure without cracking or collapsing. Energy redistributes itself over millions of years. These internal processes don't announce themselves at the surface. They don't rush toward expression. They simply balance what exists. If you imagine change happening without needing to be noticed, that quiet unfolding fits comfortably here. Light behaves gently as it travels through the solar system. It spreads, it softens, it loses intensity without disappearing. By the time sunlight reaches the outer planets, it illuminates without glare. Shadows become less defined, contrasts ease. If your perception feels softened right now, sounds blending, thoughts less distinct, that diffusion mirrors how light behaves far from its source. Many of the solar system structures are maintained by near-circular motion, orbits that are not perfect, but close enough. This closeness prevents extremes. Distances don't vary wildly. Conditions remain within comfortable ranges. Perfection is not required for stability. Flexibility often supports it. If your thoughts feel slightly uneven, not lining up neatly, that looseness doesn't threaten balance. It often allows it. The solar system does not hurry toward outcomes. There is no finish line for an orbit, no completion for a cycle. Processes repeat without seeking resolution. Even change itself doesn't aim toward an ending. Cooling continues without reaching a final cold. Motion smooths without stopping. If you notice yourself releasing the need for closure, letting ideas remain unfinished, that openness fits easily here. Some objects in the solar system have paths that will never cross with anything else. They move alone through space, unaffected by nearby bodies. This separation is not dramatic, it's simply spacious. Most things in space exist without interaction. That is normal. If you feel content without engagement right now, without responding or reacting, that state mirrors much of the cosmos. Across all of this, the solar system does not require observation. Nothing changes when watched. Nothing pauses when ignored. This independence creates a sense of safety. You're not responsible for continuity. Nothing depends on your attention. If your awareness drifts now, everything continues. If you fall asleep, everything continues. Planets keep following their paths. Light keeps spreading outward. Heat keeps dispersing. Time keeps passing without emphasis. You're welcome to remain gently present with these ideas, and you're just as welcome to let them blur into the background, leaving only a faint sense of steadiness, something ongoing. Calm and unconcerned, continuing quietly, whether or not you're aware of it at all. In the solar system, there are many examples of motion that feels almost ceremonial in its regularity. Eclipses are one of these. A moon passes in front of a planet, or a planet passes in front of the sun, and light dims gently for a while. Then it returns. Nothing changes afterward. No trace is left behind. These events can be predicted far in advance, not because they are dramatic, but because they are so dependable. The geometry repeats, the timing holds. Shadows glide across surfaces at a steady pace, neither rushing nor hesitating. If you imagine a shadow moving slowly now, you don't need to see its edges clearly. It can be soft, indistinct. The idea of gradual change is enough. Some of the most calming structures in the solar system are rings, not just Saturn's bright rings, but the fainter rings around other planets as well. These rings are made of countless small pieces, each following its own orbit. Together, they form patterns that look smooth and continuous. There is no central piece holding a ring together, no framework. Stability emerges from repetition and balance. Particles drift, collide gently, separate, and continue. The ring persists not because it is rigid, but because it is flexible. If you think of many small things creating something steady without effort, you don't need to hold on to the image. It can dissolve back into motion. In the vast distances between planets, light takes time to travel. Signals sent from spacecraft move outward at the speed of light, fading gradually as they go. There is no sudden cut-off where communication stops. Messages simply grow weaker, then eventually indistinguishable from background noise. This fading is not a failure, it's the natural shape of distance. Nothing is meant to remain strong forever. If your awareness feels like it's fading in and out, sometimes clear, sometimes distant, that rhythm fits easily alongside how signals move through space. Many bodies in the solar system experience gentle wobble rather than strict rotation. Their axes tilt slightly. Their orientation shifts over long periods. This wobble doesn't destabilize them. It adds variation without disruption. Earth's axis slowly changes direction over tens of thousands of years. This alters which stars appear near the pole, but daily life continues unchanged. Most changes are too slow to be felt. If you sense subtle shifts in your own state, not dramatic, Just different, that gentle variation belongs here. Change doesn't need to announce itself. The solar system is full of places where gravity acts quietly in the background. At certain distances, objects can orbit in resonance, matching one another's timing without collision. These resonances persist because they distribute energy evenly. Nothing in these systems pushes too hard, nothing pulls too strongly. Balance holds. If you imagine balance without tension, support without pressure, that sensation can rest here without explanation. Some worlds experience extremely long nights. On planets with tilted axes or slow rotations, darkness can last for months or years. During these nights, temperatures adjust gradually, atmospheres settle. Nothing waits impatiently for light to return. Darkness, in these cases, is simply part of the cycle, not an interruption, not a problem. If your surroundings feel quiet or dim right now, there's no need to change them. Different states of light belong equally to the solar system. In the outer reaches, objects move so slowly that motion becomes almost theoretical. An orbit might take thousands or millions of years. From one century to the next, position changes only slightly. These objects are not stalled. They are simply moving on a scale that doesn't register moment to moment. If you find it hard to sense time passing right now, if minutes blur together, that timelessness mirrors how motion feels in these distant regions. The solar system also contains gentle exchanges of material. Gases escape from atmospheres slowly. Particles are lost to space one by one. This loss doesn't cause collapse. It happens at a pace that allows systems to adjust naturally. Mars, for example, continues to lose atmosphere to space, but it does so gradually. There is no sudden emptiness, just a slow thinning across billions of years. If you think of letting something go without effort or urgency, that easing fits comfortably here. Some of the calmest motion comes from objects that never meet. Paths cross in projection, but not in space. Distances keep bodies safely apart. This spacing isn't enforced, it's simply the result of initial conditions settling into order. If you feel comfortable with distance right now, with not engaging, not responding, that spaciousness is widely shared in the cosmos. Even the sun's activity follows long, gentle patterns. Solar cycles rise and fall without sharp boundaries. Periods of increased activity give way to quieter intervals. Then the cycle repeats. Nothing accumulates toward a final state. Variation exists within limits. If you notice your alertness rising slightly, then easing again, that wave-like motion mirrors the sun's own rhythm. Throughout the solar system, surfaces hold records of time without storytelling. A crater doesn't explain itself. A layer of ice doesn't announce its age. They simply remain. These records don't require interpretation to exist. They are complete as they are. If memories surface for you now and then drift away without context, that movement doesn't need meaning. Presence is enough. The solar system has no sense of urgency. Processes unfold according to physical laws that don't hurry or delay. Everything happens at the pace set by balance. Nothing waits for attention. Nothing accelerates because it's being watched. If you feel no pressure to stay awake, no pressure to listen closely, that freedom is intentional here. As these segments continue to flow, you may not notice where one ends and another begins. They overlap gently. They echo one another. That softness is part of the experience. Nothing needs to be distinguished clearly. Planets keep circling. Moons keep turning. Light keeps traveling outward, thinning as it goes. You're welcome to remain lightly aware of these quiet facts, and you're just as welcome to let them fade into the background, leaving only a sense of steadiness, something calm and ongoing, continuing quietly, whether you're listening, drifting, or already asleep. In the solar system, there are motions that feel less like travel and more like staying. An object can move constantly and still remain in the same relationship to everything around it. Moons do this as they circle their planets, always returning to familiar positions. always held within the same gentle distances. Nothing about their movement suggests departure. It is motion without leaving. Some moons complete an orbit in days, others in weeks or months, but each one repeats its path so faithfully that change becomes nearly invisible. From one orbit to the next, the view is almost the same. Light falls at similar angles. Shadows repeat their patterns. Time passes, but nothing asks to be marked by it. If your own experience feels like this right now, time moving, but nothing shifting sharply, that steady presence belongs here. In many regions of the solar system, surfaces are shaped not by activity, but by its absence. Without atmosphere, without flowing liquid, without frequent impacts, landscapes remain still, craters persist, ridges stay defined, nothing smooths them away. This stillness is not fragile. It doesn't need protection. It simply continues because nothing interferes. In space, stability often comes from being left alone. If you feel no need to engage or adjust right now, that lack of interference is not a problem. It can be a form of rest. Some of the most peaceful changes in the solar system involve the slow rearrangement of energy. Heat moves from warmer places to cooler ones, but it does so gradually. There is no rush to equilibrium. Differences fade gently over time. A planet cools over billions of years. A moon releases internal warmth grain by grain. Nothing collapses when energy spreads. Systems adapt quietly. If the idea of things evening out feels calming, not resolving, just softening, you can let that sensation linger without needing to define it. The solar system also contains many motions that are technically complex, yet experientially simple. Orbital resonances, for example, can be described with precise mathematics, but they feel like rhythm rather than calculation. One body moves, another responds, and the pattern repeats. These rhythms don't require attention to remain intact. They don't depend on awareness. They exist as long as the conditions remain balanced. If your thoughts feel rhythmic right now, rising and falling, appearing and fading, that quiet repetition fits comfortably alongside these cosmic patterns. In the space between planets, there is a constant, nearly imperceptible rain of particles. Cosmic dust drifts through the solar system, tracing long arcs around the sun. Each particle follows its own path, rarely interacting with anything else. This dust doesn't gather itself into meaning. It doesn't form structures that demand notice. It simply moves, faintly, continuously. If your awareness feels light present, but not anchored, that weightlessness mirrors how most matter exists in space. Some planets carry thick atmospheres that soften everything beneath them. Clouds diffuse light, winds distribute heat evenly, sharp contrasts fade. On Venus, sunlight reaches the surface as a muted glow. There are no distinct shadows, no sharp edges. Everything is bathed in the same gentle brightness. If your surroundings feel evenly toned right now, no sharp sensations, no strong contrasts, that softness belongs naturally in this landscape. The solar system includes many processes that repeat without accumulating pressure. A storm forms, then dissipates. A flare occurs, then subsides. Nothing builds toward exhaustion. Even energetic events are followed by long periods of quiet. Activity never dominates for long. If your energy rises slightly and then eases again, without needing to go anywhere, that rise and fall mirrors how activity behaves in space. Some moons experience tidal heating that keeps them gently active beneath the surface. The pull of their planet flexes them slightly as they orbit. This flexing creates warmth, but it does so evenly. There is no cracking or tearing. The surface remains calm while internal processes continue. Nothing forces itself outward. If you imagine something working quietly beneath awareness, supporting balance without calling attention to itself, that idea can rest here without explanation. Across the solar system, there are many examples of things staying within comfortable limits. Temperatures fluctuate, but not wildly. Orbits shift, but not abruptly. Systems remain within ranges that allow them to continue. Extremes are rare and brief. Moderation is common and persistent. If your current state feels moderate, not intensely alert, not fully asleep, that middle ground is widely shared across space. The solar system also contains long stretches where perspective barely changes. From one century to the next, a distant object's position may shift only slightly against the background stars. Motion exists, but it is too slow to demand notice. These slow changes are not waiting to become obvious. They are complete as they are. If your experience feels static right now, no clear movement forward or backward, that stillness does not need correction. Light itself participates in this calm continuity. It moves outward from the sun, spreading and thinning, never stopping, never reversing. It doesn't hurry, it doesn't linger. Each photon travels its path independently, unconcerned with destination or arrival. If you imagine movement without intention, just continuation, that feeling aligns with how light behaves throughout the solar system. Some worlds are shaped primarily by balance rather than force. Gravity holds them together. Rotation shapes them gently into spheres. Nothing presses too hard in any direction. These shapes emerge naturally, without design or effort. They are the result of many small forces settling into agreement. If the idea of agreement without negotiation feels present now, you can let it remain without words. The solar system is also defined by patience. Events unfold when conditions allow, not when attention is available. Nothing rushes to be seen. This patience is not deliberate. It is simply how physical laws operate when given enough time. If you feel no urgency to follow what comes next, that absence of pressure fits perfectly here. As these ideas continue to pass by, you may not remember which ones you've heard before. Some may feel familiar, some may feel new, some may blend together without distinction. That blending is welcome. Nothing here needs to stand apart. Planets continue moving through their steady paths. Moons continue circling in quiet companionship. Energy continues to spread gently outward. You're free to remain lightly aware of these motions, or to let them fade almost completely. Either way, the solar system continues in the same calm manner, steady, balanced, and unconcerned, offering quiet company, whether you're listening closely, drifting, or already asleep. In the solar system, there are places where motion feels so even that it almost disappears. An orbit becomes a background condition rather than an event. A rotation becomes a quiet fact rather than an action. Things continue, but without drawing attention to themselves. Consider how a planet stays in orbit. There is no moment when it decides to keep going. There is no correction being made each time around. The path exists because it already exists. Gravity curves space gently, and the planet follows that curve again and again. If your own experience feels like this right now, continuing without needing to choose that ease fits naturally here. Some of the calmest places in the solar system are regions where nothing ever fully forms. The asteroid belt, for example, contains countless rocky bodies, but no single planet. Gravity prevented them from gathering into one mass. Instead, they remain separate, each following its own quiet path. This separation is not a failure of formation. It is a stable outcome. Nothing is unfinished. The system simply settled this way and stayed. If the idea of remaining separate, not merging, not resolving, feels present for you, that spaciousness belongs here. The solar system is also shaped by extremely slow exchanges. Atmospheres leak into space one particle at a time. Magnetic fields deflect solar wind gradually. Nothing is lost all at once. Even dramatic-sounding processes like atmospheric escape happen gently. A few atoms gain enough energy to drift away. Most remain. Balance adjusts quietly. If you imagine letting go without noticing, that gentle release mirrors how loss works on a cosmic scale. Some planets tilt gently as they travel, presenting different faces to the sun over time. This tilt creates seasons, but not all seasons are sharp. On some worlds, changes in temperature and light are subtle, stretched across many years. There is no clear beginning to winter, no sudden arrival of summer. Conditions shift gradually, almost imperceptibly. If you feel yourself moving between states, alertness easing into drowsiness without a clear boundary, that gradual shift fits easily here. The solar system contains many examples of quiet containment. Gas giants hold vast atmospheres without solid surfaces. Clouds float above deeper clouds, layer upon layer. Pressure increases smoothly with depth. Nothing collapses suddenly. Nothing breaks. Material arranges itself into stable layers and stays there. If you imagine being held without pressure, supported without being squeezed, that sense of containment belongs naturally in this landscape. In many regions, sound has no role at all. Space carries no vibration. Events happen without noise. Motion occurs without announcement. A collision between objects produces no echo. A storm rages silently. Everything unfolds without sound. If the absence of sound feels noticeable now, you don't need to fill it. Silence in space is not empty. It is simply unoccupied. Some moons exist in near-perfect synchrony with their planets. They rotate once for every orbit, keeping the same face turned inward. This state took time to develop, but once reached, it remains. The moon does not resist this configuration. It does not need to maintain it. The arrangement holds itself. If you feel comfortable staying oriented the same way, not needing to turn or adjust, that steadiness fits here, the solar system is filled with long-lived arrangements that don't require maintenance. Orbits persist, resonances hold, distances remain within stable ranges. There is no caretaker ensuring this stability, no intervention. The system continues because the conditions allow it to. If you sense that nothing needs fixing right now, that things are allowed to remain as they are, that permission is shared widely across space. Light behaves patiently as it moves through the solar system. It does not accelerate or hesitate. It follows the same speed everywhere. As it travels, it spreads out, covering larger areas with the same energy. Brightness fades, but presence remains. If your awareness feels spread out, not focused in one place, that diffusion mirrors how light occupies space. Some of the most enduring features in the solar system are scars. Craters from ancient impacts remain visible for billions of years. They do not heal. They are not erased. These marks are not reminders of trauma in a human sense. They are simply records. They exist without narrative. If memories surface briefly for you and then settle without story, that movement doesn't require interpretation. The solar system also includes many pauses that are not waiting for anything. Long periods pass without significant change. Nothing builds, nothing resolves. These pauses are not gaps between meaningful moments. They are the main substance of time itself. If your experience feels like a pause right now, not transitioning, not arriving, that stillness is not incomplete. Some planets reflect more light than others, depending on their clouds and surfaces. Brightness varies gently. Nothing shines sharply without reason. Even reflective worlds do not glare endlessly. Light is softened by distance and atmosphere. If your perception feels muted, sounds quieter, sensations softer, that gentle filtering mirrors how planets handle light. Across the solar system, nothing competes for attention. Processes unfold independently. No event claims importance over another. A distant moon continues orbiting whether a storm forms elsewhere or not. Everything proceeds in parallel. If you feel no need to prioritize thoughts right now, letting them exist without hierarchy, that neutrality belongs here. The solar system has no concept of productivity. Nothing aims to accomplish more tomorrow than today. Processes repeat because repetition is stable, not because it leads somewhere. If you feel free from needing to progress or improve in this moment, that freedom aligns naturally with cosmic time. As these segments continue to pass, They may feel increasingly similar. Images may overlap, ideas may echo. That sameness is intentional. Familiarity builds safety. You don't need to distinguish one thought from another. They can blend into a continuous background, like distant motion you're aware of without watching closely. Planets continue their steady paths. Moons continue their quiet companionship. Energy continues to spread gently outward. You're not required to follow any of it. Everything continues whether you're listening, drifting, or already asleep. And as this calm motion carries on beyond awareness, you're free to rest alongside it, held not by instruction or effort, but by the simple fact that nothing here is in a hurry, and nothing is asking anything of you at all. In the solar system, there are many processes that exist without ever becoming events. They do not arrive, they do not depart, they simply continue. One example is the slow reshaping of orbits over very long periods of time. Planets do not follow perfectly fixed paths forever. Their orbits shift slightly, almost imperceptibly, influenced by the combined gravity of everything else nearby. These changes happen so slowly that no single moment contains them. 1,000 years passes. Nothing seems different. Another 1,000 passes. Still, everything looks the same. This gradual adjustment does not lead to instability. It leads to flexibility. The system absorbs tiny changes without reacting sharply. If your own thoughts feel flexible right now, able to drift without breaking, that softness belongs here. Some of the calmest environments in the solar system are defined by uniform pressure. Deep beneath the clouds of gas giants, pressure increases smoothly with depth. There are no sudden collapses, no empty spaces. Material arranges itself layer by layer, each level supporting the one above it. These layers do not shift abruptly. They settle into balance and remain there. Energy moves through them slowly, carried outward over immense spans of time. If you imagine being supported evenly, not pushed, not pulled, that sense of quiet containment mirrors these deep planetary interiors. The solar system also contains many objects that exist in near-permanent twilight. On moons with thick atmospheres or slow rotations, light is diffuse rather than direct. There are no sharp sunrises, no abrupt darkness. Instead, brightness increases and fades gently. Shadows are soft or absent. Everything appears evenly toned. If your surroundings feel gently lit right now, not bright, not dark, that evenness aligns naturally with these distant worlds. In many places, change occurs through accumulation rather than transformation. Layer upon layer of material settles slowly. Dust falls, ice forms, particles arrive one at a time. On airless bodies, these layers remain undisturbed. Nothing mixes them, nothing erases them. Over millions of years, a surface becomes a quiet archive of small arrivals. If the idea of small things adding up without effort feels calming, you don't need to imagine the final result. Accumulation does not aim toward completion. The solar system is filled with objects that rotate without urgency. Some spin quickly, others slowly, but none experience acceleration or braking unless acted upon. Rotation continues because there is no reason for it to stop. A planet does not tire of turning. A moon does not lose interest in its orbit. Motion persists as a background condition rather than an action. If your body feels settled into a rhythm right now, breathing steady, posture unchanged, that continuity fits comfortably here. Across the solar system, boundaries are rarely sharp. An atmosphere thins gradually. A magnetic field fades with distance. Even the influence of gravity weakens slowly, never switching off completely. This softness at the edges allows systems to blend rather than collide. Nothing ends abruptly. One region becomes another without needing definition. If you feel yourself drifting between states, waking and resting, listening and forgetting that in-between space is not a problem, it mirrors how most boundaries exist in space. Some of the most stable systems in the solar system are those that do not aim for symmetry. Orbits tilt slightly, axes lean, distances vary within gentle limits. This imperfection does not threaten balance, it supports it. Exact alignment is not required for stability. If your thoughts feel uneven, not organized into a straight line, that looseness does not need correction. Flexibility is often what allows things to continue. The solar system also contains many examples of motion that never seeks an endpoint. An orbit does not finish. A cycle does not conclude. Each repetition flows directly into the next without marking completion. Earth does not celebrate the end of a year. A moon does not acknowledge the end of an orbit. Time passes without ceremony. If you notice yourself letting go of beginnings and endings, allowing moments to blend, that easing fits naturally here, light, as it travels through space, does not carry urgency. It does not hurry toward arrival. It moves at a constant pace, spreading outward, thinning as it goes. Each photon travels alone, independent of all the others. There is no coordination, no destination that matters more than the journey. If your awareness feels spread out, not gathered in one place, that diffusion mirrors how light occupies the solar system. Some worlds are shaped almost entirely by gravity and rotation, without weather or water. Their surfaces remain unchanged except for rare impacts. Craters accumulate, edges stay sharp. These surfaces do not age in a human sense, they simply remain. If the idea of remaining unchanged feels present for you now, that stillness does not need explanation. Existence does not require transformation. The solar system includes long stretches when nothing interrupts continuity. No storms, no impacts, no flares. These quiet intervals make up most of cosmic time. Activity is the exception. Stillness is the norm. If your current moment feels uneventful, no strong emotions, no clear direction, that does not mean something is missing. It means you are aligned with the dominant rhythm of space. Some planets and moons exchange energy through gentle tides. Gravity stretches and relaxes them slightly as they move. This flexing creates warmth deep inside, but it happens evenly. Nothing tears, nothing snaps. Energy is distributed smoothly. If you imagine internal processes continuing quietly without rising into awareness, that subtle support fits easily here. Across the solar system, there is no pressure to progress. Nothing needs to improve. Nothing aims toward optimization. Processes repeat because repetition is stable, not because it leads somewhere. If you feel free from needing to accomplish anything right now, that release is shared widely across cosmic time. As these segments continue, they may begin to resemble one another more closely. Images overlap, ideas echo, distinctions soften. This sameness is not a flaw, it is part of the calm. Familiar patterns require less attention. You do not need to remember which thought came first. You do not need to track where this is going. Planets continue their steady paths. Moons continue their quiet circling. Energy continues to spread gently outward. Everything out there remains balanced whether or not it is observed. And you're free to remain here with these ideas, or to let them fade almost completely, knowing that the solar system continues in the same calm, patient way, offering quiet company, whether you're listening closely, drifting gently, or already asleep. In the solar system, there are motions that feel less like movement and more like agreement. Objects follow paths that suit them, shaped by gravity and distance, without resistance. Nothing strains to remain where it is. Nothing resists being where it already belongs. A planet does not cling to its orbit. It does not fear drifting away. The balance between forward motion and gravitational pull is simply there, quietly maintained. This balance does not require monitoring. It does not require correction. It persists because it is comfortable. If your own state feels settled right now, not actively held together, just naturally present that ease mirrors how most motion exists in space. Some of the quietest features in the solar system are those that are almost perfectly round. Planets and large moons tend towards spherical shapes, not because they are shaped deliberately, but because gravity smooths them gently over time. Sharp edges soften, high points sink, low points rise. This smoothing happens slowly, across immense spans of time. There is no moment when a body becomes round. It simply approaches that shape gradually, without effort. If the idea of being shaped gently without force, without urgency, feels calming, you don't need to hold on to it. It can rest lightly in the background. In many parts of the solar system, light arrives at shallow angles, on distant worlds. The sun never rises high in the sky. Instead, it traces a low path, casting long, soft shadows. Brightness spreads sideways rather than downward. This kind of light does not demand attention. It does not create sharp contrasts. It illuminates without insistence. If your awareness feels sideways rather than focused present, but not pointed, that softness aligns naturally with how light behaves far from the sun. The solar system also contains many objects that are warmed more by internal processes than by sunlight. Radioactive decay inside planets and moons releases heat slowly, steadily. This warmth does not flare. It seeps outward quietly, contributing to balance rather than change. A moon can remain geologically active for billions of years through this gentle internal warmth. Nothing dramatic announces it. The surface may look calm, even while subtle motion continues beneath. If you imagine something supporting you quietly from within without drawing attention, that idea can remain without explanation. Across the solar system, many changes happen without leaving visible traces. Gas escapes from atmospheres atom by atom. Energy redistributes itself smoothly. Motion adjusts slightly. Most of these changes cannot be seen directly. They must be measured patiently, inferred from small differences. Yet they are always happening, always contributing to long-term balance. If your own internal state feels subtly different without a clear reason, that quiet adjustment belongs here. Some of the calmest structures in space are those formed by repetition alone. Rings, belts, and disks emerge from countless objects following similar paths. No single object defines the structure. The pattern exists because many small motions align. This alignment does not require coordination. It emerges naturally from shared conditions. Each piece follows its own path, and together they create something steady. If you think of many small moments forming a sense of calm without intention, you don't need to track them. The pattern can exist without being counted. The solar system contains no concept of pause or resume. Motion does not stop and start. It continues smoothly, uninterrupted. Even when activity increases, a storm forming, a flare erupting, it is simply one motion layered onto others. Nothing else halts to accommodate it. Everything proceeds in parallel. If your thoughts overlap right now, one fading as another appears, that layering mirrors how events coexist in space. In many regions, the passage of time leaves almost no mark. On airless moons, a century passes much like a minute. There is no vegetation to grow, no erosion to reshape surfaces quickly. Time accumulates quietly, without signaling itself. A surface may look the same after 1,000 years. If you feel uncertain how much time has passed while listening, that timelessness fits easily here. Time does not need to announce itself to exist. Some planets experience winds that blow steadily for long periods without changing direction. On gas giants, jet streams circle the planet, maintaining their speed and position for years. These winds do not gust or lull, they flow. This continuity creates an atmosphere that feels more like a system than an event. Motion becomes background rather than action. If you imagine movement that does not interrupt rest motion, that allows stillness, that balance belongs naturally in this environment. The solar system also includes long-lived relationships that change only slightly over time. Moons drift away from their planets slowly. Orbits widen by tiny amounts. Distances increase so gradually that generations pass without noticing. These changes do not signal separation or loss. They are part of how energy redistributes itself gently. If you think of change that does not feel like departure, just a quiet easing, that idea can remain without needing to resolve. Light and space does not arrive all at once. It reaches different places at different times. Each region receives sunlight as it was minutes or hours ago. This delay does not cause confusion. Each place responds to the light it receives when it arrives. If your awareness feels slightly out of sync, responding now to something from earlier, that gentle delay fits comfortably here. Some of the most stable conditions in the solar system occur where extremes are avoided. Temperatures remain moderate, orbits remain near circular, axial tilts remain within ranges that prevent dramatic shifts. Stability emerges not from control but from moderation. If your current state feels moderate, not intense, not absent, that middle ground is widely shared across cosmic environments. The solar system does not emphasize beginnings. A planet does not remember when it formed. A moon does not mark the moment it became tidally locked. History exists as structure rather than story. Past events are embedded quietly in what remains. If memories arise for you without narrative present, but not explain that form of memory belongs here, across all of this, there is no requirement for awareness. Processes do not speed up when observed. They do not slow down when ignored. This independence creates a sense of permission. Nothing depends on you noticing it. If your attention drifts now, everything continues. If you remain awake, everything continues. If you fall asleep, everything continues. As these segments pass by, they may begin to feel familiar. Ideas echo, images overlap, distinctions soften. This familiarity is part of the calm. Nothing new needs to be introduced. Nothing old needs to be remembered. Planets continue their gentle paths. Moons continue their quiet circling. Energy continues to spread softly outward. You're welcome to remain with this sense of continuity, or to let it fade into the background. Either way, the solar system carries on in the same patient, balanced way, offering quiet company without asking for attention, and remaining steady whether you're listening closely, drifting gently, or already asleep. In the solar system, there are moments that feel almost like holding still, even though nothing ever truly stops. A planet reaches the farthest point in its orbit, slows slightly, and then begins to drift back the other way. This turning point is not marked. There is no signal or pause. Motion simply eases, then continues, as it always does. These gentle reversals happen quietly, far beyond notice. They do not interrupt the rhythm of orbit. They are part of it. If your own experience feels like this right now, not moving forward, not moving back, just resting in between, that state fits easily here. Some of the calmest environments in the solar system exist where temperatures change very little. On distant moons and icy bodies, the sun is too far away to cause daily warming and cooling. Instead, conditions remain nearly constant. Cold persists, ice stays solid. There is no anticipation of warmth, no waiting for change. The environment is complete as it is. If your surroundings feel steady right now, neither warming nor cooling, neither brightening nor dimming, that constancy belongs naturally in this wider landscape. The solar system also contains many examples of movement guided entirely by geometry. The angles between orbits, the tilt of axes, the spacing of moons. These relationships remain consistent because they are comfortable. Nothing strains against these arrangements. They have settled into positions that work, and they remain there. If your thoughts feel arranged without effort, not organized deliberately, but not scattered either, that quiet geometry fits comfortably here. Across space, gravity acts without preference. It pulls equally on all matter, shaping paths without judgment. It does not rush, it does not hesitate, It simply exists as a background presence. This impartial pull allows systems to form and remain stable. Nothing needs to earn its place. If you feel accepted exactly where you are without needing to justify rest or alertness, that permission mirrors gravity's quiet neutrality. Some of the most enduring features in the solar system are those that formed accidentally and then remained. A crater appears after an impact. Material settles. Time passes. Nothing removes it. The mark becomes part of the landscape, not a disturbance. It doesn't demand explanation. If experiences surface briefly in your awareness and then settle without needing meaning, that gentle acceptance belongs here. The solar system includes many long-lived relationships that do not require closeness. Moons orbit at steady distances. Planets remain separated by vast stretches of space. Nothing presses inward. Distance here is not loneliness. It is balance. Spacing allows systems to remain calm. If you feel comfortable with space right now, with not being close to anything in particular, that spaciousness mirrors how most objects exist in space. Light behaves patiently as it moves through these distances. It does not arrive everywhere at once. Each region receives it when it arrives, without concern for delay. There is no sense of lateness, no missed moment, only arrival, exactly when it happens. If your awareness feels slightly delayed, arriving gently rather than sharply, that timing fits comfortably here. Some planets experience very long dawns and dusks. The sun rises slowly, taking days or weeks to fully appear above the horizon. Light spreads gradually, softening shadows rather than erasing them. There is no sudden shift from night to day. Everything eases into brightness. If you feel yourself easing into wakefulness or rest without a clear boundary, that gradual transition belongs naturally in this environment. The solar system also contains many processes that repeat without accumulation. A wave forms in a ring, then dissipates. A storm appears, then fades. Nothing builds toward excess. Activity arises and settles within limits that maintain balance. If your energy rises briefly and then returns to quiet without needing to go anywhere, that rise and fall mirrors how motion behaves across space. In many regions, surfaces are defined by what does not happen. No wind to smooth them, no water to carve them, no vegetation to cover them. Stillness becomes the dominant feature. Change is rare and gentle. If your mind feels still right now, not occupied, not empty, that neutral stillness fits comfortably here. The solar system does not emphasize beginnings or endings. An orbit does not begin at a particular point. A cycle does not conclude at a particular moment. Everything blends into continuation. If you notice yourself letting go of structure, not needing to know where you are in the sequence, that release is welcome here. Some moons reflect very little light, remaining dark against space. Others reflect more, appearing brighter. Neither state is preferred. Each simply reflects what it receives. Brightness and darkness coexist without competition. If your awareness shifts between clarity and dimness, that variation belongs naturally in this landscape. Across the solar system, time passes without commentary. No clock announces it, no signal marks its passing. Change accumulates quietly or not at all. If you're unsure how much time has passed while listening, that uncertainty mirrors how time feels in much of space. The solar system has no demand for attention. Nothing speeds up to be seen. Nothing slows down to be noticed. Everything continues on its own terms. If your attention drifts now, if the words blur or fade, nothing is lost. The motion continues. Planets remain in their paths. Moons remain in their quiet companionship. Energy continues to spread gently outward. You're free to remain with these thoughts, or to let them dissolve entirely. Either way, the solar system continues in the same calm, patient way, steady and unhurried, offering quiet company, whether you're listening closely, drifting softly, or already asleep. In the solar system, there are processes that unfold so quietly they're almost indistinguishable from rest. One of these is the slow spreading of energy. Heat moves outward from warmer places to cooler ones, not in waves or bursts, but as a gentle redistribution. A planet cools, a moon releases internal warmth. Nothing notices, nothing reacts. This spreading does not aim for an end state. It does not hurry toward balance. It simply continues, moment after moment, century after century. If your own energy feels like it's settling rather than stopping easing, rather than ending, that quiet adjustment fits naturally here. Some of the calmest motions in the solar system are those that never vary. The speed of a light remains the same everywhere. It does not accelerate when space is empty. It does not slow when space is crowded. It moves steadily, indifferent to context. This consistency creates a kind of background reliability. Nothing needs to check or confirm it. It simply holds. If you feel comfort in sameness right now in something that does not change, that steadiness belongs here. The solar system also contains many objects that exist in long-term isolation without consequence. A small moon may orbit far from its planet, interacting with nothing else. An icy body may drift on the outskirts, rarely influenced by passing forces. This isolation is not fragile, it is stable. Nothing intrudes, nothing disturbs. If your experience feels self-contained at the moment, complete without interaction, that state mirrors how much of space exists. In many regions, matter is arranged in ways that discourage sudden change. Dense cores resist collapse, wide orbits resist collision, systems are shaped to avoid extremes. This resistance is not active, it is structural. The arrangement itself creates calm. If you feel supported by structure rather than effort, by things simply being the way they are, that support reflects how stability is built across the solar system. The solar system is full of gradual transitions rather than switches. Temperature gradients fade slowly. Light diminishes gradually. Pressure increases smoothly with depth. There is rarely a moment when one condition becomes another. Instead, one blends into the next. If you notice yourself drifting between states, attention softening, awareness loosening, that blending is not a problem. It mirrors how most changes happen in space. Some planets have surfaces that reflect light unevenly, creating subtle variations rather than strong contrasts. Ice brightens one region, rock darkens another, but nothing is stark. The differences exist without emphasis. They do not call attention to themselves. If your perception feels gentle, noticing without focusing, that softness fits naturally here. The solar system also contains many cycles that never synchronize, yet never conflict. A moon's orbit, a planet's rotation, a star's activity cycle. Each proceeds independently. They do not wait for one another. They do not align deliberately. They simply coexist. If your internal rhythms feel slightly out of phase, wakefulness drifting alongside rest, that coexistence mirrors the layered timing of space. Across vast distances, objects maintain their paths without awareness of one another. Two bodies may orbit the same star without ever interacting. Their paths are separate, and that separation is what keeps them stable. Closeness is not required for connection. Distance is part of the design. If you feel no need to engage or respond right now, content with space, that spacing belongs here. Some of the calmest features in the solar system are those that appear unchanged from any perspective. A crater looks the same from one century to the next. A ridge casts the same shadow. Time passes, but nothing insists on being updated. If your moment feels timeless, not marked by before or after, that stillness is widely shared across space. The solar system does not measure success or failure. A planet does not succeed by maintaining its atmosphere. A moon does not fail by losing one. These are neutral outcomes, shaped by conditions rather than intention. If you feel free from evaluation right now, not needing to judge how things are going, that neutrality aligns naturally with cosmic processes. Light traveling through the solar system does not seek destinations. It does not anticipate arrival. Each photon moves until it interacts with something, or until it doesn't. There is no preference, no urgency. If your awareness feels like it's moving without direction present, but not aiming, that gentle motion mirrors how light exists in space. Some regions of the solar system are defined by long-term sameness. Temperatures remain nearly constant, illumination barely changes, conditions repeat endlessly. This sameness does not cause stagnation, it allows persistence. If repetition feels comforting right now, the same sounds, the same stillness, that familiarity belongs here. The solar system also includes motion that is so slow it becomes theoretical. An object's position changes by fractions of a degree over centuries, from one human lifetime to the next. Nothing appears different. These motions are not waiting to become noticeable. They are complete as they are. If you feel no sense of progress or movement right now, just presence, that lack of emphasis, mirrors how motion feels on deep timescales. Some planets and moons experience internal activity that never reaches the surface. Heat circulates below, materials shift quietly, the exterior remains calm. Nothing forces expression, nothing demands release. If you imagine something working quietly beneath awareness, supporting balance without interruption, that idea can remain without needing explanation. The solar system is not organized around narratives. There is no beginning being revisited, no ending being approached. Processes unfold because conditions allow them to, not because they are leading somewhere. If you find yourself letting go of story, not needing a sequence or outcome, that release fits comfortably here. Across all these motions and non-motions, nothing requires your attention, nothing accelerates when observed, nothing pauses when ignored. This independence creates a sense of safety. You're not responsible for continuity. If your attention fades now, everything continues. If you stay awake, everything continues. If you fall asleep, everything continues. As these segments drift by, they may feel increasingly similar. Images repeat, ideas overlap, distinctions soften. That repetition is intentional. Familiarity allows rest. You do not need to remember where one thought ends and another begins. They can merge into a single, gentle background. Planets continue along their quiet paths. Moons continue their steady companionship. Energy continues to spread softly outward. And you are free to remain with this calm continuity, or to let it dissolve entirely, knowing that the solar system continues in the same patient, balanced way, offering quiet company without expectation, whether you are listening closely, drifting gently, or already asleep. In the solar system, there are places where distance itself becomes a kind of calm. Between planets, the space is so wide that motion feels diluted. Objects travel for months or years without encountering anything at all. There is no sense of crowding, no need to adjust course, just open space, allowing movement to unfold slowly and without interruption. This distance is not emptiness in a human sense. It is simply room for paths to exist without crossing, room for motion to remain gentle. If your mind feels spacious right now, not focused on anything in particular, that openness belongs naturally here. Some of the quietest processes in the solar system involve balance rather than change. For example, the way radiation pressure from sunlight gently pushes on tiny particles. The force is extremely weak, barely noticeable, yet over long periods it shapes dust clouds and comet tails. Nothing is shoved, nothing is accelerated abruptly. The pressure is constant and mild, allowing particles to respond slowly. If you imagine influence without force guidance, without push, that subtlety mirrors how many forces operate in space. The solar system also contains many examples of symmetry that arises without design. Rings form flat disks, cloud bands wrap evenly around planets, moons settle into repeating orientations. This symmetry does not aim for beauty. It emerges because it is stable, because it allows motion to continue smoothly. If you notice simple, repeating patterns in your awareness, the same thoughts, the same sensations, that familiarity does not need correction, stability often looks like repetition. Across long spans of time, the solar system gently forgets extremes. Fast motions slow, sharp differences soften, energy spreads out. This does not erase variety. It simply prevents anything from remaining overwhelming for long. If your own state feels less intense than it did earlier, calmer, flatter, quieter, that easing aligns naturally with this tendency. Some planets and moons experience surface changes so gradual that they're almost symbolic rather than visible. A crack widens by a fraction of a millimeter. A layer of frost thickens imperceptibly. A slope shifts by a grain or two. These changes do not accumulate into drama. They simply mark the passage of time in the smallest increments possible. If your awareness feels attuned to very little or to nothing at all, that minimalism fits comfortably here. The solar system is filled with slow exchanges that never become transactions. Energy moves, momentum shifts, mass redistributes. But nothing is gained or lost in a way that demands attention. Everything balances out quietly. If the idea of exchange without cost feels present right now, movement without loss, that balance mirrors how physical laws operate on large scales. Some moons travel through regions of space where sunlight is faint and constant. There is no sharp noon, no deep midnight, just a steady dimness that changes very little over time. In these environments, shadows are shallow, edges are soft, contrast is minimal. If your perception feels muted, sounds blending, thoughts losing edges, that softness belongs naturally in these distant places. The solar system also contains many motions that never intersect. Paths curve around the same star but remain separated by millions of kilometers. These paths are not avoiding one another. They are simply arranged so that meeting is unnecessary. This spacing allows everything to continue calmly. If you feel comfortable not engaging, letting things pass without interaction, that quiet independence mirrors how most objects coexist in space. Some of the calmest relationships in the solar system are those that change only in one direction. Moons slowly drift outward. Rotations gradually slow. Energy dissipates gently. There is no oscillation, no back and forth, just a steady easing over deep time. If you imagine change that does not reverse, but also does not rush, that gradual unfolding fits easily here. The solar system does not distinguish between foreground and background. A distant object is no less real than a nearby one. A faint process is no less important than a bright event. Everything exists on equal footing, governed by the same quiet laws. If your attention feels evenly spread, not drawn strongly to any one thought, that neutrality belongs here. Some planets and moons have surfaces that reflect almost nothing. They absorb light rather than returning it. These dark worlds do not announce themselves visually, yet they remain fully present. Their existence does not depend on visibility. If you feel content being unnoticed right now, existing without expression, that state mirrors much of the cosmos. The solar system includes many long-lived configurations that no longer change meaningfully. A moon has reached tidal lock, an orbit has stabilized, a rotation has slowed as much as it will. These states are not stagnant, they are complete. If you sense a feeling of completion without conclusion, nothing to do, nothing to resolve, that quiet fullness fits comfortably here. Across all these examples, one theme repeats gently: nothing is asking to be followed, nothing is building toward a point. Everything continues because continuation is stable. If your thoughts begin to blur together, now ideas overlapping, details fading, that soft blending is not a loss. It is part of the calm. Planets keep tracing their wide, patient paths. Moons keep their steady companionship. Light keeps traveling outward, thinning as it goes. You don't need to remember any of this. You don't need to hold on to it. You're free to remain here, listening lightly, and you're just as free to let everything fade into the background, knowing that the solar system continues in the same gentle, unhurried way, offering quiet company whether you're awake, drifting, or already asleep. In the solar system, there are places where motion feels like a shared understanding rather than a force. Objects move in ways that accommodate one another, guided by gravity that doesn't insist or hurry. A moon curves around its planet, a planet curves around the sun. Each movement makes room for the next. Nothing presses inward too tightly, nothing drifts away abruptly. The spacing between bodies is part of the balance. Distance is not an accident. It is what allows motion to remain calm. If you notice a sense of comfortable distance right now, not too close, not too far, that spacing fits naturally here. Some of the quietest moments in the solar system occur when nothing changes at all. Long stretches pass without impacts, without storms, without flares. Orbits repeat, rotations continue, light arrives and departs without variation. These stretches are not pauses between important events. They are the dominant condition. Most of the solar system's history is made of uneventful time. If your current moment feels uneventful, nothing in particular happening, that does not mean it is empty. It means it aligns with the most common state of the cosmos. The solar system also contains many examples of motion that never seeks attention. Small moons circle quietly, too distant to be noticed without instruments. Tiny particles drift through sunlight, scattering it faintly. These motions do not announce themselves. They do not become landmarks. They simply continue. If your awareness feels light present, but not anchored to anything, that subtle presence belongs here. Across space, temperature often changes so slowly that it feels constant. On distant worlds, there is no daily cycle of warming and cooling. Instead, cold persists gently. Ice remains stable. Molecules move only slightly. Nothing waits for warmth to return. Nothing anticipates change. If your body feels settled, neither warming nor cooling noticeably, that steady state mirrors many environments far from the sun. The solar system is shaped by relationships that do not require communication. A planet does not signal to its moon. A moon does not ask permission to orbit. They respond automatically to gravity, without awareness or intention. These relationships persist because they do not depend on effort. They exist because conditions allow them to. If you feel relieved not to manage anything right now, not to respond or decide that absence of demand fits comfortably here, some worlds are defined almost entirely by repetition. The same face turns toward the same direction. The same shadow traces the same arc. The same angle of light returns again and again. This repetition does not create monotony. It creates predictability. Nothing unexpected interrupts. If predictability feels calming right now, knowing nothing needs to change, that comfort belongs naturally in this landscape. In the solar system, there are many transitions that take place without crossing a line. A planet's atmosphere thins gradually until it becomes space. A magnetic field weakens until it blends into background radiation. There is no point where one state abruptly ends and another begins. Everything fades into what comes next. If you feel yourself drifting between awareness and rest without a clear boundary, that in-between space is not a problem. It mirrors how most boundaries exist in nature. The solar system also contains long arcs of motion that never curve back. Energy spreads outward. Heat dissipates. Rotations slow. These changes do not reverse. They also do not rush. They unfold steadily, without tension. If you imagine change that feels like easing rather than loss, that gentle direction fits comfortably here. Some planets and moons are surrounded by quiet halos of particles. Dust, gas, and plasma move around them in faint patterns. These halos are not solid. They shift and thin without collapsing. They exist as soft extensions rather than defined structures. If your sense of self feels soft-edged right now, not sharply defined, that looseness mirrors how many things exist in space. Across the solar system, light does not behave as a spotlight. It spreads, it scatters, it reflects. Brightness diminishes with distance, not abruptly but gradually. Nothing is suddenly dark. If your perception feels dimmer, not fading, just softened that gentle lighting belongs here. The solar system does not organize itself around moments. There are no highlighted instants, no emphasized peaks. A storm forms, then fades, an orbit completes, then continues. Nothing pauses to mark the occasion. If you feel no need to mark time right now, no urge to count minutes or track progress, that timelessness aligns naturally with cosmic motion. Some moons carry scars from ancient impacts that no longer matter. The impact happened once. The crater remains. Time passes. The scar does not reopen. It does not ache. It simply exists as part of the surface. If past moments appear in your awareness without emotional story, that neutral presence belongs here. The solar system includes vast regions where nothing ever arrives. No comets pass through. No spacecraft travel. No light brightens significantly. These regions are not waiting. They are complete as they are. If you feel complete without stimulation right now, content with stillness, that state mirrors much of interplanetary space. Across all these examples, one thing remains consistent. Nothing in the solar system requires attention. Nothing accelerates to be noticed. Nothing slows to be understood. Everything continues on its own terms. If your attention drifts now, if the words blur or dissolve, nothing is lost. The motion continues. Planets remain in their steady paths. Moons remain in their quiet companionship. Light continues to travel outward, thinning gently as it goes. You're free to stay with these thoughts, or to let them fade almost entirely. Either way, the solar system carries on in the same calm, patient way, offering quiet company without expectation, whether you're listening lightly, drifting softly, or already asleep. As we come toward the end of this long, quiet drift, nothing needs to change. There's no sense of arrival required here. The solar system does not conclude, and neither do you need to. All of those gentle motions continue exactly as they were. Planets keep tracing their wide, familiar paths. Moons keep their steady companionship. Light keeps moving outward, thinning as it goes, unconcerned with whether it is noticed. If curiosity is still present, you're welcome to let it rest softly, without following it anywhere. If curiosity has already faded, that's just as welcome. Nothing here depends on attention staying awake. You may already be asleep, or nearly there. And if you are, these words don't need to reach you. They can simply pass by, like distant motion that doesn't ask to be seen. If you're still awake, that's fine too. You don't need to hurry yourself toward rest. Staying awake is not a failure of the experience. It's simply another way of being present alongside something vast and steady. The solar system makes room for all states, motion and stillness, warmth and cold, light and darkness. In the same way, this moment makes room for you exactly as you are. Nothing is expected now. Nothing needs to be remembered. You don't need to hold on to any fact, image, or idea. They can all dissolve gently, one by one, or all at once. What remains, if anything remains at all, can simply be a sense of continuity, something ongoing, something patient, something that doesn't hurry and doesn't pause, but carries on quietly in the background. Planets will continue orbiting long after this moment passes. Moons will continue turning through familiar shadows. Energy will continue spreading, smoothing itself across space and time. You're free to let sleep take you now, if it already has, and you're free to stay awake, breathing, listening, or not listening at all. Thank you for sharing this quiet stretch of time, for letting these gentle facts exist nearby, whether you notice them clearly or not. Wherever you are now, resting, drifting, or simply here, you're allowed to be there. Nothing else is required.